The man used every ounce of his strength to hack off the demon dragon's head. He thought everything would end there, but to his shock, the dragon could heal itself. The severed head was slowly regenerating. The man threw his head back and roared at the sky, venting his unwillingness. Was this really how it had to end? Just as he closed his eyes, ready to accept his fate, a faint voice from a teammate reached his ears. "If only you'd discovered your power sooner." The man let out a bitter laugh, thinking, there's no such thing as if only. He refused to let the story end like this, so he raised his hand, preparing for one final strike. But by now, he was already spent. At that moment, the demon dragon gathered its magic in its maw, and a surge of violet flame swallowed him whole. In the next instant, scenes from 6 years ago flashed before his eyes. The moment he was made a slave. So this is what they call seeing your life flash before your eyes. But why does the bald head in front of me feel so real? Or is memory just a dream? If these memories are real, then the bald man in front of me will punch me in 3 seconds. Sure enough, it's all real. I really am back 6 years ago. The bald man came over with a group of people and finally picked the man out of the crowd. The very same bait from the adventurer party. Whenever danger arose, the bait would lure monsters away, buying time for the team to escape. Soon after, everyone arrived before a gate, the new world making his teammates brim with excitement. Clearly, this was a team of utter novices. Suddenly, a giant-mouthed monster appeared behind them, catching everyone completely off guard. Why would a treant, which usually stays away from gates, show up here? The white-haired one, a bit more experienced, immediately unleashed a fire arrow with his staff, piercing a treant in one shot. The blonde, though, was petrified with fear, and the chubby one tried to calm him down, saying that as long as they stuck together, there was hope to survive. But the next moment, the monster smashed the chubby one into a bloody pulp. Whitehair was about to launch another fire arrow, but was ensnared by the treant's long tongue, and in the blink of an eye became its next meal. Seeing such a horrific scene, the blonde broke down and screamed, "Can anyone save me?" At his moment of utter despair, the slave from before, Elpem, appeared before him. He desperately reached out to Elpem for help, but Elpem remained unmoved, even curling his lips into a mocking smile. Then he leaped forward. "Sorry about that. Looks like I'm a little late." Only then did the blonde realize it was on purpose, and he roared in fury, "You think you can walk out of here alive?" The treant, unsated, lunged at them the next instant. As the treant opened its gaping maw to swallow him, he thrust his spear upward, piercing straight through the monster's body. Moments later, Elpem bent down to pick up the fire element staff dropped by Whitehair. "This weapon suits me just fine right now." Suddenly, a surge of magical energy pulsed from a nearby boot. Sure enough, there was a ring hidden inside. The ring of telekinesis, which allowed one to move objects with their mind. He just slipped the ring on when a rustling sound came from behind. A treant, mouth twisted in a gruesome grin, charged at him, clearly drawn by the scent of blood. Before he could react, the treant whipped out its tongue, 40 meters long, and wrapped it tightly around his spear. With a crack, the spear snapped in two. The treant opened its jaws, ready to devour him, but the man countered with a blast of fire magic, skewering yet another treant with a single blow. "Now let's see what this ring can do." He slowly stretched out his right hand, green energy swirling at his feet. Under telekinetic control, the magic staff swept through the battlefield, harvesting treant lives in droves. Still, the ring's duration was short, and more treants circled him, eyes locked on their prey. But that couldn't change their fate. They all fell to him in the end. What the man didn't expect was his fire magic suddenly fizzled out. A closer look revealed the staff was on cooldown. So he dodged out of the way, then stomped the ground hard. No choice but to fight these things up close. After taking out several more treants in melee, the staff's cooldown finally ended. Without hesitation, he unleashed a fire arrow which whistled through the air. Then he activated the telekinesis ring again, and with a flurry of slicing sounds, the remaining treants were wiped out in an instant. "Looks like I'm just as strong as I used to be." But then a woman's voice cut in. "Who are you? How can you use both a fire staff and a telekinesis ring at the same time?" Hearing this, Elpem fell into deep thought, recalling the words his teammate had spoken in their darkest hour. "If I'd realized my own abilities sooner, would things have ended differently?" Looking at the woman before him, Elpem didn't answer. He simply put her out of her misery. "To avoid repeating the failures of my past life, I have to take the initiative." Not long after, he returned to town. The bystanders around him began to talk in hushed tones. A slave actually made it back alive on his own. That's unbelievable. News of this quickly reached the upper echelons of the Gopar Merchants Guild, specifically to Avis. Not only did he come back alive, he doesn't have a single scratch on him. "I heard all the other adventurers are dead." Avis flicked the ash from his cigarette, feeling that something about this was indeed unusual, but he wasn't worried about Elpem trying to escape. People who become slaves because of their debts, even if they come back alive, are just used as bait again. He hasn't tried to run away, which makes it obvious. He can't break free of our control from the top of Gapper. After all, the only way out is through death, and that's always been how we do things here in Gapper. Does something this minor really need my personal attention? But his subordinate added, "There's something special this time. They say that slave managed to open the first floor." Avis was visibly shocked at these words. A slave opening the first floor. After all, slaves had no love for the upper classes. The subordinate went on, he also wants to modify his contract and register as an adventurer. And it's Lord Raken's order. He wants you to confirm it yourself. At the mention of Lord Raken, Avis immediately stood up. You said Lord Raken. He's a high official in Gapper. Why would someone like him take an interest in an ordinary slave? Could this be connected to that incident? A slave who wants to become an adventurer. Under Empress Cygnus's rule, the very idea of slavery was supposed to be abolished. But in reality, those were just empty words. In the end, people are always slaves to money and desire. If you can't pay your debts, you can only repay them with your labor. It's this simple rule that's led to so many in the Maple world living as slaves, even if they're not called that. As his father's only family, Elpem became a slave the day his father fell ill. To cure his father, he bought black moss from the upper echelons of Gapper, but they jacked up the price several times over the market rate. He had no way to pay it back in time and was sentenced to work off his debt. And so, he spent 6 years as a slave to those people. Now it's time to set things right. Avis asked disdainfully, let's cut the nonsense. How do you want to modify your contract? How about I set you as an F-rank adventurer? I'll make the change for you. Elpem replied with a calm smile, such quick agreement. You must know exactly what's going on here. As he spoke, his gaze sharpened. However, I'm applying for E-rank adventurer certification. I don't intend to go along with your plans. As bait, this slave has been into the gates hundreds of times over the past 3 years. When did monster hunting become an adventurer's sole purpose? The first adventurers earned their fame by surviving. Adventurers have always been the heroes who make it back alive from the gates. Avis nodded and said, I'll grant you that. Many times, the information survivors bring back is more valuable than brute strength. And surviving as bait in the gates for 3 years. That's not something just anyone can do. But that's all it is. Bait slaves are only sent into low-difficulty gates. Don't think that's enough to survive the high-level ones. Did you think we'd be stupid enough to sign high-risk contracts with bait slaves? You're overestimating yourself. A lunatic who could die at any moment. But why do you make me feel a bit uneasy? There's a gate with a 5-person entry limit, but 12 fatality records. That means at least 12 teams were wiped out inside. If you're really that capable, show me some results. As long as you can prove your worth, I'll grant your request. With that, he handed me a contract. Afterwards, Elpem joined up with the others to hunt monsters as a team. I'm Chev, the tank of this group. I heard you used to be a slave too, but don't worry, no one here cares about that. Everyone's the same in this place. By the way, I heard you can use fire magic. Mind showing us? They say mages can only wield the magic attribute they're born with. Other types are useless to them, so even if you pick up a magic item with the wrong element, it's basically worthless. Sounds like a hassle, huh? Anyway, we've got a new mission this time. We're not hunting monsters today. Our job is to recover the items left behind by the 12 teams that came before us. Turn in each piece and you'll get at least 3,000 magic stones. Get ready, everyone. This is our big score. Soon, the group made their way deep into the forest. It's broad daylight, but there's an eerie chill in the air. In a place like this, things could drag on, so we'd better set up camp first. This tree here looks perfect for a base. With that, everyone pulled out their camp supplies. Elpem, take it easy. Setting up camp is what me and that guy do best. Before long, the camp was ready. Afterwards, Chev split the team into 2 groups to search the area. Tom, Max, and Roya in one group. Elpem, you're with me. Team 1 heads east, Team 2 west. But after searching for ages, they didn't see a single monster. Maybe we're too close to the entrance. Looks like we'll have to push in deeper tomorrow. So Elpem, how's your first assignment going? Elpem admitted he was pretty nervous. Chev grinned and reassured him, hey, everyone's nervous on their first adventure. Every time you step through a gate, your heart pounds. But with teammates by your side, you always find the courage. After hearing your story, I really feel for you. Elpem, have you thought about joining our team for good? Don't take it too seriously. I was just saying. By the day's end, nobody had much to show for their efforts. After dinner, everyone got ready to sleep. Night fell quickly. Suddenly, Chev came over with a torch. Elpem, you awake? You really are cautious, boss. Did you forget what you put in the food? That sleeping draft could knock out a monster weighing hundreds of kilos. Surprised no one died from it. He eyed Elpem's fire staff. This thing's got to be worth at least 10,000 magic stones. He raised his dagger ready to strike. But as soon as he plunged the blade into the bedroll, Chev's eyes widened in shock. A closer look. And it was only a decoy. What the hell? Don't just stand there. Find him. He's got to be nearby. No sooner had the words left his mouth than a thunderous boom sounded, and the newly built camp was reduced to ashes in an instant. It has to be Elpem. Then one of his men shouted and pointed, boss, over there. Chev followed the direction of his finger, only to see a giant eye staring back at them. He cursed furiously, damn you, Elpem. You used us as bait. They just weren't careful enough. If you want to trick me, don't pretend to be friendly. It's one thing not to recruit your own adventurers, but to welcome a bait slave into the fold anyway. Looks like the boss monster here is exactly what I suspected. A giant creature. When I saw those corrosive marks, I had my doubts, but I never imagined it would be this massive. On the other side, Chev's men quickly asked, "Boss, what is that thing?" Chev replied, "If I'm not mistaken, that's a golden slime. You'd never find one of these giant monsters in the regular Maple world. They only show up as rare bosses in red tier gates. They're absolutely deadly. The worst part is its acid attacks. This thing's whole body is corrosive, lethal for close-range fighters like us." As soon as the words left his mouth, a rain of acid began to fall from above. Luckily, Chev reacted in time and pulled his men to safety. I didn't think it could attack at range 2. Heads up, everyone. That's its acid rain skill. The good news is it has a 1-minute cooldown. Take this chance to get ready. Be prepared to strike at the core in the center of its head. But as soon as Max heard 1-minute cooldown, his eyes changed. Before anyone could react, he charged straight at the boss, sure he had enough time and thinking this was his big moment. Chev tried to stop him, but it was too late. As Max got close, the slime's attack suddenly triggered, slicing Max clean in two. He stared in disbelief. No way. The cooldown still had 10 seconds left. But there's no medicine for regret in this world. The golden slime unleashed another acid rain, and in an instant, Max was reduced to nothing but a pile of bones. Elpem watched the whole scene unfold. In fact, Chev wasn't wrong. It's just that the golden slime can devour items. The more it consumes, the stronger it becomes, and its skill cooldown gets shorter as well. With the way this one's grown, I finally understand why those previous 12 teams were wiped out. Its danger level has already surpassed red tier. This is more like a legendary yellow tier boss. With our first tier adventurer strength, we don't stand a chance. Besides, in this gate, all the loot has long since been absorbed by it, so this mission is already a failure. But then, recalling Avis's dismissive expression, a new idea sparked in Elpam's mind. He seized the moment when the golden slime was distracted and fired a flame arrow straight at its head. Unfortunately, thanks to its magic resistance, the shot wasn't fatal. From the wound, he estimated he'd need to land at least 4 more arrows. No matter. Let me show Avis what real strength looks like. Just then, the slime's acid rain attack came pouring down. Elpem dodged with a swift sidestep, then fired another arrow at its gaping mouth and flung out his grappling chain, anchoring himself in place. The ring of telekinesis on his hand glowed green. I have to hit the same spot flawlessly over and over. For most mages, they'd never even dare to try. But in my last life, I was known as the greatest telekinetic mage in history. 2 arrows in quick succession struck the golden slime, leaving only 2 more shots to finish it off. But unexpectedly, the slime managed to dodge one. Still, that didn't change the outcome. Elpem immediately loosed another arrow. With a thunderous boom, the shot blasted a huge hole in the slime's body. Now that you're wounded, time for arrow number 5. But just then the slime swung a massive hand, reaching for Elpem from behind. Luckily, he sensed it in time, instantly activating the telekinesis ring. His grappling chain shot out, and the sword at its end drove deep into the ground. Using the momentum, he flipped backward, easily dodging the monster's grasp. So it's faster than I thought. No matter. It ends here. With that, a blazing flame arrow burst from his hand. The slime tried to block with its huge arm, but Elpem only smiled. The flame arrow didn't go for its head, but shot straight into its body. A moment later, a deafening blast. The golden slime's massive form was torn apart in an instant. The shockwave was immense. Elpem quickly flung his grappling chain behind him, secured it, and vaulted up to the treetops. When the dust finally cleared, Elpem dropped back down to the center of the battlefield. Almost immediately, something caught his eye. He used telekinesis to draw it to him. It was a strange, magic-filled orb, its core pulsing with a blinding red light. As the crimson glow grew brighter, streams of strange energy began to seep from the orb, instantly forming a circular shield around him. Once he'd finished up, Elpem returned to Avis. To Avis, Elpem was just a braggart who talked big but couldn't deliver. "So you're the only one who made it back, and you didn't even bring any gear." Elpem replied coolly, "The people you sent were all rookie hunters. They had their eyes on my equipment and tried to pull tricks behind my back. While I slipped away to act alone, they ran into the boss monster and got wiped out." Avis immediately pressed him for details about the monster they'd encountered. When he heard golden slime, Avis shot back, "So you're saying all the gear got melted by it? This is a disaster. All those high-level hunters who borrowed our equipment are gone. That's a huge loss. And worse, this kid actually made it back alive. You see, there are a few common rules about the gates. First, there's a strict limit on how many people can enter. Once the number hits the cap on the gate's pillar, the gate becomes inactive until all inside are dead. Second, each gate's difficulty and tier are clearly defined, from red to purple. Color marks the threat level, and those of a higher tier can't enter lower-tier gates. Third, each gate can only be conquered once, which is the biggest hurdle. If anyone gets out alive, the gate vanishes forever and can never be reopened. To be honest, a golden slime is a nightmare for first-tier adventurers. Surviving at all is impressive, so I get why you couldn't bring anything back. Still, the mission failed. But at that moment, Elpem interrupted. Not so fast. I haven't finished yet. As he spoke, he untied the rope from his arm. Hate to disappoint you, but the golden slime, I killed it. You advanced to Tier 2. Did you absorb its magic stone? Faced with Avis's shock, Elpem simply answered, I think my strength speaks for itself. According to our agreement, I'd like to apply for E-rank adventurer status. He didn't expect Avis's reply to catch him off guard. D-rank, I want you to apply for D-rank. If you work with me, I'll even treat you as C-rank. Normally, anyone below Tier 3 would consider C-rank treatment a huge privilege. An adventurer's rank is basically tied to their The gap between each is stark and intimidating. But Avis knew Elpem was no ordinary person. Not just anyone could use magic stones to advance. Elpem asked, are you talking about survival instinct? Avis confirmed exactly. You were born with overwhelming talent. To hit second tier right after making first. It was unheard of. Avis wanted him on his side no matter what. All Elpem could do was stare in disbelief. He hadn't expected his value to rise so fast. Looks like they really are desperate. Time's running out after all. Very soon, the 100-man raid on the Red Tier Gate will begin. Above the port of Victoria, all the major guilds were watching the coming event. Of course, the Gapper Merchant Association would be paying close attention too. And for Elpem, that wasn't a bad thing. It gave him a chance to move his plan forward. Lord Avis, may I ask a favor? Avis told him to speak. Elpem held out his hand, could you lend me some money? Avis flicked his cigarette ash, thinking Elpem was really pushing his luck. He doesn't know. The opening of the gates was supposed to be the dawn of a new age for adventurers, but it's all just a trap laid by the Black Mage. Countless adventurers have died inside, and Maple World's potential is being drained bit by bit. Until the day of the apocalypse, when monsters lying in wait will pour from the gates. In the end, humanity will fall. From this moment, in exactly 3 years, Maple World will reach a turning point. That day is nearly here. After that, Elpem left Avis's office. It's not much, but at least I've got some capital. This time, the 100-man gate is Red Tier, open only to adventurers of Tier 2 and above. Normally, the Gapper Association only invests in high-tier adventurers, but this time they're willing to bet on a newcomer like me. It's simple. They're after that gate. I've got some funds, but spending it all on gear would be a waste. Prices for weapons these days are outrageous. A more practical option is to try my luck at the List labor market. Is there anything I can help you with? Elpem said he was looking for someone specific. The attendant led him to the discipline room. We use this room for troublemakers like the one you're after. Sir, this is the person you asked for. The attendant swallowed hard. Sir, are you sure you want this one? Elpem nodded. He knew exactly what he was doing. He's the one I want. In his past life, Maple World was destroyed earlier than expected because of one person's death. Aaron, the polearm hero, and Aaron's only student, the one responsible for her death and the destruction that followed, was none other than the hero slayer Devo. This time Elpem sought him out, but Devo clearly wasn't interested. I don't know you. Get lost. The attendant could only offer an awkward explanation. Sir, I think this guy's not all there. Devo had always been that way in his past life, but now he was just a slave. For a slave to speak to an adventurer like that, it wasn't just a bad attitude, it was sheer madness. Elpem simply smiled. His temperament is wild, but his strength is just as formidable. After the apocalypse, both of us became people everyone watched. Because we came from the same place, awakened at the same time, and our power was nearly identical. The biggest thing we had in common, though, was that we were both broke. How about 1,000,000 magic stones? If you don't have the money, just get out of here. Devo cared about money for one reason. His sister had black blood disease. Elpem took out the cash and Devo's eyes went wide. 1,000,000 magic stones. Really? He couldn't help but swallow hard. Elpem said calmly, listen up, 1-year contract. Profits split 70-30. I get first pick of any loot we find inside the gate. The attendant was stunned. He's actually planning to take Devo as a partner, not a slave. Devo agreed without hesitation. He snatched up the contract, don't regret this. Then he stamped his hand on the contract. Elpem just smiled. This had gone even smoother than he'd hoped. Devo, face shining with excitement, asked when they'd go challenge the raid gate. Devo, you'd better prove your worth. Don't worry, sir. I'll give it everything I've got. No one will serve you more loyally than me. Soon it was time for the gate raid. Boss, thanks for buying me a weapon, but I'd really rather go back and get my longsword. This battle axe just doesn't feel right in my hands. Elpem replied coldly, if you're going to work with me from now on, you'll use the polearm. If you're not willing, the contract's over. Right now, the two of them headed to the raid gate, which allowed up to 8 people per team. Oddly, Devo didn't see any other teammates. Elpem just shot him a cold glare. Only then did Devo realize, wait, don't tell me it's just you and me. Don't worry, the right teammate's already here. Elpem slowly extended his right hand, pointing straight at Devo. Like you said, just the two of us. He didn't give Devo any time to react. He simply kicked him straight through the entrance. The moment they entered, Devo exploded. Are you out of your mind? This is an 8-person dungeon. What can the two of us possibly do? Even if you're crazy, there are limits. This isn't a joke. And anyway, I don't even know how to use this axe. But when he caught Elpem's gaze, Devo immediately fell silent. The next second, a cloud of dust billowed up behind them. Grab a pack of trained beasts. Sorry, it's my fault for yelling. These things' shells are too tough. Swords and axes are useless. Before he could finish, Elpem motioned for him to move aside. Devo watched stunned as Elpem strode straight toward the Treant horde. No wasted movement, just a single fire arrow. In the blink of an eye, every Treant beast was instantly obliterated. Elpem said coldly, pathetic. We just entered and you're already making a fool of yourself. Don't make such rookie mistakes again. Devo stood behind him, dumbfounded. What the hell is this guy? Meanwhile, outside the gate, a woman knelt to report the merchants have taken the bait. Everything is proceeding as planned, all our people are in position. May we begin? The man merely gave a quiet, all according to the Lord's instructions. With that, the woman vanished without a trace. The man fixed his gaze on the glass of red wine in his hand, murmuring softly, it's time to return freedom to Maple World. On Elpem's side, after a fierce round of battling, they finally managed to collect all 27 magic stones. At this point, Devo finally understood Elpem's plan. At first, he'd thought Elpem was just a madman, but now he had to admit Elpem had real skill. He could even unleash telekinetic flame arrows that Devo had never even heard of. Teaming up with a pro like this is totally worth it. Not only will my sister's medical bills be covered, but I won't have to worry about living expenses either. They hadn't gone far when another pack of Treant beasts appeared. Elpem counted. There were 9 of them in total. Before Elpem could even issue an order, Devo had already charged in, battle axe in hand, and split one of the monsters in 2 with a single swing. The remaining Treant beasts immediately swarmed them. It was Devo's first time using an axe, so he soon found himself on the defensive. Elpem watched quietly from a distance. As expected, he's not used to wielding an axe, but I'm sure he'll soon realize the battle axe is the perfect weapon for him. After all, he's the sole disciple chosen by the hero of the axe. His talent is unquestionable. After a brutal fight with the monsters, Devo finally started to discover the power of the battle axe. Not only did it have a wide attack range and immense force, it actually felt even better in his hands than a sword. If his moves could just get a little smoother, he'd be perfect. It didn't take long before Devo had mastered the basics of the battle axe. Just then, the ground began to shake violently. Before Devo could react, a crack split open in the mountainside and a giant pillar shot out, knocking Devo clear across the field. He screamed, "What the hell is that?" Elpem looked closer. It was the Treant beast boss. Before Devo could recover, the boss's spiked branch lashed out at him. Luckily, Elpem yanked him out of harm's way just in time, saving his life by a hair's breadth. Big monsters usually have one fatal flaw: they're slow. That made it easier for Elpem to aim. But this Treant boss's hide was absurdly tough. Even Elpem's flame arrows bounced right off. If flame arrows won't cut it, I'll just have to try something new. He immediately drew his bow and activated the telekinesis ring. A flurry of flame arrows whirled around the boss at high speed. But the monster was lightning quick, dodging every magical shot with ease. Elpem was genuinely shocked. I didn't expect it to be so agile. Looks like magic won't work at all. Devo shouted for him to run, but Elpem's instincts sensed something was off. If the magic arrows really didn't work, it wouldn't bother dodging them. The problem must be with its branches. So as the boss attacked, he decisively unleashed his telekinesis magic. A massive boulder tore itself from the ground, rocketing under Elpem and Devo's feet. The boss's strike missed, and Elpem and Devo soared to safety atop the boulder. Elpem gave Devo orders. You take care of the smaller Treant beasts. Leave the big one to me. With that, he charged straight at the boss. As Elpem clashed with the Treant boss, Devo's first instinct was to run for his life. After all, this monster was way out of their league. But the very next moment, Elpem's maneuvers left him speechless. His magic arrow struck the boss square in the forehead. Even though its branches reacted with inhuman speed, and it was nearly impossible to hit with telekinesis alone, Elpem, now at Tier 2, could fire 2 spells at once. The first flame arrow flew and before the boss could block, a second one followed right behind. No matter how fast it was, the boss couldn't keep up with the barrage. Under the relentless assault, it quickly lost its composure. But things weren't going as smoothly for Devo. Boss, help! Look out! Elpem couldn't even be bothered to answer. As the smaller Treant beasts closed in, a telekinetic flame arrow shredded one in an instant. He shot a cold glance at Devo, can't even handle a few small fries. Just then, the boss swung its massive branch at Elpem. He had no time to dodge. It looked like he was done for, but Devo managed to pull him to safety at the last second, saving his life. Careful, boss. I just risked my life to save you. So don't blame me for messing up earlier. Elpem couldn't help but laugh. Devo was finally proving useful. The next moment, the two of them spoke in unison. Let's do this. Elpem unleashed another pair of flame arrows at the boss, shattering its main branch. Not to be outdone, Devo burst forward, throwing himself atop the boss's head to block its attack. Elpem's flame arrow pierced straight through the boss's main branch. Now's our chance. Devo leapt onto the boss's head, Elpem attacking from the right, Devo from the left. But Devo suddenly lost his footing, slipped off the boss, and was sent flying by a blow, coughing up blood, landing right in the monster's mouth. Boss, help me. Elpem instantly summoned a massive boulder with telekinesis, yanking Devo out of the boss's jaws. But the boss didn't let up, smashing the stone from under Devo's feet. What a pain! Elpem summoned dozens more boulders from the earth. Devo barely caught his balance before the boss's branches whipped at him again. Damn it, will this never end? Elpem's magic arrows were at the ready to fire at a moment's notice. For now, the two of them had managed to hold the Treant boss at bay. At that moment, Devo charged forward without hesitation, swinging his battle axe down on the Treant boss's head and smashing its eye with pinpoint accuracy. The beast howled in pain. Seizing the opportunity, Devo hurled his battle axe with all his might, landing solidly back on his feet as the axe embedded itself deep in the boss's skull. Elpem immediately activated his telekinetic ring, controlling the axe to slice again and again at the monster's head. But before long, the Treant boss flung the axe off. Devo leapt up and snatched it out of the air, grinning, time for dessert. Without missing a beat, he vaulted up once more and with a satisfying crunch buried the axe deep into the boss's skull, causing blood to gush forth. But the monster's vitality was astonishing. It sent Devo flying with a violent shake. Mouth gaping wide, it lunged to swallow him whole, but there was no way Elpem would allow that. A volley of flame arrows whistled into the Treant boss's mouth. A split second later, a thunderous boom. The boss was consumed by raging fire. The battle was finally over, the ordeal at last at an end. Devo let out a long breath and said to Elpem, "Boss, I really owe you this time. I'd be dead if it weren't for you." By the time they made it home, night had already fallen. It's late. We should eat something. Just as Devo's little sister was about to pick up her chopsticks, there came a sudden knock at the door. She hurried to answer it, and to her astonishment, standing outside was the brother she'd missed for so long. Tears streamed down her face as she cried out, "Brother, you're finally home. Welcome back." Elpem, meanwhile, made his way to a house deep in the forest. He stood before the cold corpse lying on the bed, his face utterly expressionless. He struck a match and set the house ablaze, watching without a word as it was reduced to ashes. Elsewhere, with the 100-man portal about to open, Ivis was fretting over the team's composition. This time, Rakan himself would be overseeing things. If the raid failed, Ivis wouldn't be able to escape responsibility. The operation had caught the attention of all 10 top merchant guilds and promised epic, even legendary rewards. But looking at the current roster, it was clear the challenge was immense. The Natasha sisters from the Gold Richie Guild may have only been Tier 2, but their strength was overwhelming. By comparison, Gapper's Tier 2 adventurers were laughable. And it wasn't just Gold Richie. The other guilds had powerful members as well. Gapper, as always, ranked at the very bottom of the 10. Maybe I should let him join after all. Just then, a knock sounded at the door. It was Rakan. "How's the team coming together?" Ivis immediately stood to apologize, saying the lineup was still incomplete. Rakan didn't blame him, just asked about that certain person. Ivis replied that he still didn't quite trust Elpem. After all, Shev's whole team had perished last time, and with no witnesses, no one really knew what had happened. But one thing was clear, Elpem wasn't to be underestimated. Rakan said flatly, then confirm it again. "Conveniently, there's a suitable arena here. Gather all the candidates together. Let's make this lively, and there'll be no shortage of witnesses this time." Judging by the rest of the team's faces, it was clear Elpem and Devo were unwelcome, simply because they were former slaves. But these people were a world apart from Shev's team. They were true powerhouses, the kind who needed no bait. Soon everyone had assembled, and Ivis began the final briefing. "It's time for your evaluation. Only those who demonstrate real ability will go forward." "That's right. This is your qualification test for the 100-man portal." A ripple of surprise swept the crowd. The 100-man portal. That's a rare privilege. So give it everything you've got. A blinding red light flashed, and every team was transported into the dungeon. Didn't expect the environment to be another forest. According to instructions, just cooperate when fighting the boss. For now, everyone can act independently. When you get the signal, regroup. Time is short. Deal with anything you encounter. Soon enough, the mage Dahlan noticed something odd. But it was just a one-eyed hermit crab. "What a waste of time," she muttered, unimpressed, and tossed an energy sphere at it. "So weak. Grab the magic stone and let's move." But when the dust settled, the crab was unscathed, crawling out as if nothing had happened. Is its defense really that high? Even magic doesn't work. Before anyone could answer, a rustling swept through the forest. Dahlan was instantly on guard, warning everyone. The next second, dozens of hermit crabs swarmed them. "We're surrounded." After a fierce fight, Dahlan's team finally managed to wipe out the crabs. A teammate warned Dahlan, "Looks like the monsters are even tougher than we thought. If we keep burning energy like this, we'll be exhausted." The risks were real, but if they wanted to break the alliance, they'd have to take down the boss themselves. Most of the other teams were probably thinking the same thing. But this meant trouble for Devo. He complained, "Boss, ever since we got here you've just been giving orders. You haven't done anything yourself." Still, they couldn't afford to waste any more time. Elpem made a quick decision. Devo would go after the boss. Elpem would clear out the small fry. Devo asked, confused, "Boss, didn't you just say we'd take on the boss together?" Elpem explained that was just what the others expected. This was an elimination battle. The real test wasn't just about beating the boss. Clearing out the lesser monsters was just as important. Besides, the boss zone was crowded and even more dangerous. To balance things out, who knew what tricks the other teams might pull? They wouldn't break the rules openly, but who could guarantee no one would cross the line? Besides, Elpem could feel that something about this portal was especially dangerous. Meanwhile, as Dalin's team explored, they stumbled upon an emergency escape portal and marked the spot for later. Just then, Avante suddenly burst into wild laughter. Dalin immediately snapped, "What's wrong with you? You're so loud it's driving me crazy." She grabbed Avante by the shoulder. "Didn't you hear me? If you don't shut up, you'll draw all the monsters here." But Avante just kept on laughing uncontrollably. That's when Dalin realized, "This is bad. There's poison gas. We've got to get out of here." But she'd barely taken a few steps when a monster appeared behind her, cackling madly and spewing toxic mist from its mouth. In the blink of an eye, Dalin too was caught in the madness. Back to Elpem and Devo. Devo muttered, "Boss, you really haven't lifted a finger today, have you?" But the next second his eyes went wide and he shouted, "Boss, look. There's a signal flare overhead." They'd agreed before. Whoever found the boss would fire a signal to regroup. Still, Devo hadn't expected anyone to actually use it, and the surprise showed on his face. Elpem, always sharp, immediately sensed something off. It felt like a team was missing. A monkey-faced man spoke up with a sneer, "Let me put it simply." But he was instantly interrupted by a purple-haired woman. "Looks like Dalin's mage squad hasn't arrived yet." The monkey-faced man grew impatient. There's no point waiting anymore. The boss had been found, and Dalin's team had already been wiped out. Their opponent, the Clownshroom. At the mention of Clownshroom, the purple-haired woman went pale. "No way. It's Clownshroom. Our team doesn't stand a chance against that thing. If it really is Clownshroom, we should just give up on this raid. The only thing left to do is find the emergency escape portal." Devo whispered to Elpem, "Is Clownshroom really that scary?" Elpem didn't answer right away. Clownshroom was indeed one of the toughest bosses around. Its spores were poisonous. No one could get close. Swarming it was useless. Not only was its defense sky-high, it was unbelievably fast. Then the monkey-faced man said, "Right now, Clownshroom is blocking the escape portal. If we don't fight it, there's no way out." Devo snorted, "You guys scared already? What's so scary about a mushroom? My boss's invincible flame arrow will." But Elpem quickly signaled for Devo to shut up. "If we just charge in, we're dead for sure. Fire spells are useless, and even the minions guarding the portal are insanely tough. Don't even get me started on the boss." Someone asked the monkey-faced man what to do. "We have to find a solution." At that moment, Elpem raised 5 fingers. 50,000. Monkeyface looked baffled. "What did you say?" Elpem said 50,000 misos per person. "With 30 people, that's 1.5 million. Pay up and the two of us will act as bait." As soon as the words left his mouth, Devo exploded. "Boss, do you even know what you're saying?" The monkey-faced man snapped. "Dream on. You're still a slave at heart. Don't think it's like the old days. You're not fooling anyone with your cheap bait tricks. If you two get killed in seconds, we're the ones who'll suffer. In high-level raids, slaves are just dead weight. One of you is useless and the other isn't even awakened. A slave and a tier 2. What can you do?" Devo was instantly furious, but Elpem just looked indifferent. "If you had a better plan, you wouldn't have fired the signal flare, would you? Also, our team isn't one tier 2. It's only one tier 1. And what's so funny? Your team only has a couple of tier 2s, right?" The purple-haired woman cut in. "If you two are really willing to be bait, I'll pay. But even if I want to, I don't have 50,000 misos on hand." Elpem replied coolly, "Then it's settled. We'll collect when we make it out alive. If we don't, well, we die for nothing. But I have one condition. Everyone must agree to my terms." "All right, you guys talk it out." They quickly made their decision. Sure enough, the escape portal was completely blocked by Clownshroom. Elpem circled to its back and fired a flame arrow right into Clownshroom's shoulder. As soon as it reacted, they made a break for it. A moment later, Clownshroom's eyes glowed red. It charged after them at breakneck speed. Didn't expect it to be this fast. Everyone sprang into action, rushing to open the escape portal, and slipped out one after another. But Clownshroom was still hot on Elpem and Devo's heels. Suddenly, a swarm of one-eyed hermit crabs burst out. Devo instantly drew his battle axe, hacking at the crabs without hesitation. But just then, Clownshroom swung around behind Devo and lunged, jaws open. Thankfully, Elpem reacted in time and pulled him to safety. While Clownshroom hesitated, Elpem fired another flame arrow. This time, the boss dodged with lightning speed. But what it didn't know was that Elpem's telekinesis skill let him curve the arrow midair. It spun back and struck at Clownshroom again. But that was the last straw. Clownshroom was now fully enraged. Seeing this, Elpem urgently warned Devo not to hesitate. Run! No sooner had he spoken than the two of them leapt down along the cliff face. But Clownshroom kept up the relentless chase. What it never saw coming was Devo suddenly turning back and pulling a face. Try this on for size. The next instant, a huge explosion erupted beneath Clownshroom's feet. The two of them seized the chance to escape down the cliff. Fortunately, there was a raging river below, and they just barely managed to escape with their lives. Boss, what the heck was that thing? Elpem replied coolly, didn't I tell you? That's the boss monster here. If you want to hunt, you have to be ready at all times. Hearing this, Devo suddenly understood. Boss, you mean you want us to take that thing on? He nodded. Exactly. This left Devo completely dumbfounded. Boss, you've got to be kidding. We already did our job as bait. If even your flame arrows can't hurt it, how are we supposed to fight? Didn't you say charging in would be suicide? Devo still didn't realize that the situation had changed. All the competitions dropped out. This is a prize delivered right to our doorstep, not to mention there's an extra reward. Devo, you're not backing out on me, are you? Devo hesitated and then shook his head. But boss, could you at least up my cut? Meanwhile, the others had already escaped the dungeon. Ivis immediately asked Joubert how did the raid go. Looks like there are still some people inside. Sir, the raid failed. Dalin's team was wiped out. Now only Elpem and Devo are left in there. Honestly, we only made it out because they acted as bait. That boss, there's no way we can handle it. Ivis was furious. So you mean you all just ran without doing anything? The purple-haired woman said helplessly, we had no choice, sir. That was the infamous Clownshroom. At the mention of Clownshroom, even Ivis had no choice but to order a retreat. But the purple-haired woman stopped him. Elpem and Devo haven't come out yet, and judging by the portal's status, they're still alive. Ivis only replied coldly, they're dead for sure. It's just a matter of time. You said it yourself, it's Clownshroom. If you want to wait, do it yourself. I'm busy. Useless the lot of you. A tier 2 killing Clownshroom is impossible. There's no point in waiting any longer. But what Ivis thought was impossible, Elpem was determined to achieve. He fired a flame arrow with all his might. This boss was faster than any they'd faced before, its defenses absurdly high, and it was venomous. Its difficulty was off the charts. To fight it, they had to keep their distance and hit hard. But now the flame arrows were too weak. Still, if he used telekinesis to spin the magic at high speed, he could increase its piercing power. This move was inspired by the principle of bullets. Across all of Maple World, only he could turn the impossible into reality. This was the Spiral Arcane Gun. He'd hoped to pierce its core in a single shot, but the aim was just a bit off. Now it's going to go berserk. Honestly, trying to adjust the trajectory while maintaining the spiral spell is pushing it. The worst part was the cooldown. He had to end things before it rushed them. As Clownshroom dodged another flame arrow, Elpem shouted, now. At his signal, Devo yanked a rope with all his strength. The rope snapped tight, tripping Clownshroom and hurling it off the cliff into the swamp below. Clownshroom staggered to its feet, and while it was dazed, Devo raised his battle axe and brought it crashing down, exploding the monster's skull. But even then, the creature's vitality was staggering. It still refused to die. The key to this battle was luring it into the swamp. The rule of the hunt, strip your prey of its advantages. Now, all its weapons were neutralized. Devo seized the moment, spinning his battle axe and hurling it, the blade cleaving straight into Clownshroom's head, making it howl in agony. Driving it into the swamp not only blocked its line of sight, but the sticky muck also neutralized its agility. Elpem fired another arrow, striking it right in the head. Devo, taking the chance, wrapped a rope around the axe and swung again, but Clownshroom caught it in its grip. Before Devo could let go, he was yanked toward the beast. Seeing this, Elpem raised his hand, summoning a massive log to slam down on Clownshroom. Devo grabbed hold of the log, launched himself with a flying kick to the monster's head, knocking Clownshroom off balance, nearly toppling it again. Without hesitation, Devo swung his battle axe and hacked off Clownshroom's head. With a heavy thunk, the head hit the ground. Panting, Devo still managed to give Elpem a thumbs up. The next instant, Elpem's eyes widened. Devo, watch out. He hadn't expected that even after being decapitated, the Clownshroom could still fight. It lashed out, sending Devo flying, his battle axe tumbling to the ground. Without hesitation, Elpem fired a flame arrow, and explosions erupted across the field. But when the smoke cleared, the headless Clownshroom was still moving. There's definitely something strange about this thing. Using a boulder as a springboard, it suddenly launched itself straight at Elpem. It scrambled up the cliff wall in his direction. Now Elpem had only one flame arrow left. Without time for cooldown, firing recklessly would be pointless. Just then, Devo recovered, cursing furiously as he got back on his feet. He hurled his battle axe with all his strength, splitting the headless Clownshroom neatly in two. The lower half fell straight into the swamp, but unbelievably, the thing kept crawling upward. Elpem's flame arrow was nimbly dodged. Suddenly, a red glow flickered inside the Clownshroom's body. Could that be its real head? Elpam slowly drew his pistol. Goodbye, little mushroom. He fired a shot, blasting the creature down. He thought that would finally finish it, but to his shock, it not only survived. It came back even stronger. Toxic gas seeped into Devo's nostrils. Just like the mage before him, he began to lose his senses, giggling uncontrollably. Meanwhile, on Raken's side, so you just barged in like that. Your temper hasn't changed a bit. Ivis hurriedly apologized to Raken. At that moment, there was a sudden knock at the door. Ivis called out loudly, not a good time for visitors. Go away. But in the next instant, the door swung open. Ivis could hardly believe his eyes. Sorry to disappoint you, Lord Ivis. I'm back. Raken only gave a sly smile. Well, this just got interesting. Ivis, what's going on? Didn't you say this one was dead? So you're Elpam. Just as the rumors say. You really are hard to kill. Gapper could use someone like you right now. But I have a question for you. Will your ability be of any use in the 100-man trial? Elpam replied no. That's a tough one, sir. Raken's expression immediately turned cold. Ivis quickly scolded Elpam from the side. How can you talk to Lord Raken like that? We invested in you not so you could pick and choose. Don't forget you're still in debt. Unexpectedly, Raken just laughed. Difficult? Well, maybe it's not completely impossible. Let's change the question then. Just tell me directly. What is it that you want? The scene shifts. 5 million misos per person. That's outrageous. As soon as he finished speaking, Devo spat out a mouthful of beer. Seeing Elpam's expression, Devo quickly apologized. I just thought, isn't that a bit greedy? Just then, a figure appeared behind Elpam. He turned to see the monkey-faced man, wearing a look of deep regret. You two look pretty comfortable. Meanwhile, we've been compared to certain people and end up feeling like complete failures. Devo instantly bristled. Hey, is that how you thank us for saving your skins? Perfect, I've been wanting to teach you a lesson. Let's go a few rounds. To his surprise, the next second, both the monkey-faced man and the purple-haired woman gave them a deep bow. I shouldn't have doubted your abilities out of prejudice. As an adventurer, I'm ashamed of my actions. We're here to sincerely apologize. Here's 1.5 million misos. In addition, everyone will receive a little something extra as a thank you. But Elpam said 1.5 million was enough. As for the extra gifts, they could skip them. Pay for the job done, nothing more. Oh, and you over there. The pirate Iburu writes, can you stick to your own duties? The reason Elpam didn't care about their thank you gifts was because he just asked Raken for a sky-high fee of 10 million misos. That kind of money could hire several tier 3 or 4 adventurers. They may be talented, but there's no need to spoil them. But Raken just replied calmly, even double that price wouldn't be too much. As he spoke, he handed Ivis a dossier. Intelligence he'd paid handsomely for from Jin. At the mention of that name, Ivis's expression changed instantly. You mean Shadow Lord Jin? Does that mean? But Raken cut him off coldly. Don't fool yourself, Ivis. The truth is the war has already begun. Soon it was time to rendezvous with the other merchant guild teams. According to their prior agreement with Raken, this time they'd be working alongside the Cygnus Knights. They were the strongest unit under Empress Cygnus, a symbol of official power and clearly interested in this operation. However, all the original slots had already been claimed by merchant adventure groups, so the Cygnus Knights requested Elpam's crew as support. Clearly, they had their own agenda for stepping in now. But the terms were acceptable. The Cygnus Knights aren't easy to deal with. I'm Kiri, drill commander for the Cygnus trainee squad. Don't think that just because we have a deal, you're our equals. On this mission, you'll follow my lead. No wonder Raken agreed so quickly. Gapper only sent 2 people. Looks like they've given up entirely this time. Also joining the expedition were Crocus from the Deeg Guild, Cubel from the Mardia Guild, and elite representatives from all the major merchant associations. Devo had never seen such a grand assembly. Just then, another group of beauties arrived. The Natasha sisters from the Gold Ritchie Guild, each wearing a golden medal on her chest. That's when Guard Captain Lonko spoke up. To support everyone, I've returned from inside the portal to stand guard here. I'm sure your guilds have already explained, but let me remind you before you enter. Any legendary gear obtained inside the portal doesn't belong to individuals. All items go to your respective guilds. You'll get your reward and nothing more. Of course, magic stones and the like you can keep for yourselves. But if anyone dares to hide loot, you'll face the consequences. He made a point of displaying the Tier 5 badge on his arm. And not just him. Everyone behind him was a Tier 5 powerhouse as well. Soon after, each team entered the portal one by one. Everything Elpam had done until now was for this moment. To make it this far, even in his previous life, he'd never set foot through this mysterious gate, but he was certain that this time he would succeed. Because everything, the source of all cause and effect, began here. In his last life, the 100-man trial's final report showed that every team ended up completely wiped out. No sooner had they stepped through the trial gate than Elpam immediately dropped to the ground, pressing his ear to the earth. Sure enough, just as he'd expected, a stampede of boar monsters was charging straight toward the crowd. Kiri saw this and quickly signaled for everyone to scatter. Some teams still hadn't entered yet. As agreed, no one was to drag others down at the entrance. In moments, every team was forced to flee in all directions by the onrushing boar horde. Kiri kept shouting for everyone to head into the woods and fight a guerrilla battle, but Elpem had already led Devo to a hidden spot. Devo asked how Elpem had known there'd be a boar stampede, and Elpem only replied it was just experience. In such open terrain, there were bound to be massive monster patrols. Each boar monster was 2 meters long, vicious, and moved in packs, sometimes hundreds, even thousands strong. They could be troublesome but not unbeatable. Elpem's plan was to conserve stamina early on. There was no telling what else might be waiting up ahead, and he knew for certain these monsters were only the beginning. After all, in his previous life, this was where everyone had died. Just then, Devo accidentally stepped on a trap. A row of wooden spikes shot out with a sharp whoosh. And they weren't the only ones. The other teams were also ambushed by hidden traps. It took all their effort to clear them away. Babel, don't let your guard down for a second. The warning came from Crocus of the Deeg Guild. These traps may look crude, but they're deadly and clearly use human hunting techniques. That alone tells us they weren't set by ordinary monsters. Only goblins have that kind of cunning. Their threat level is high enough to be considered boss class in a red gate. If it weren't for an old hand like me leading the way, the rest of you would be walking to your deaths. All right, a few of you come with me. But the very next second, Crocus heard a sickening thud. Babel's head was lopped off and rolled to the ground. Every one of his men was beheaded in an instant. Crocus himself didn't even have time to react before a gray-haired man chopped off his head as well. Crocus, you really were a fool. At the same time, things were going terribly for the Natasha sisters. After a sneak attack, they found themselves completely unable to move. I'd advise you not to struggle. That's a magic binding spell. But to his surprise, the eldest Natasha sister managed to speak. Why are you doing this? The man looked at her in astonishment, not expecting her to be able to talk in this state. You're a tough one. In that case, let's just end this. With that, he drove his staff straight through her abdomen, leaving the second and third sisters trembling in terror. As for why I'm doing this, maybe this will help you understand. Everything is for the dark magician, my lord. Years of waiting, all for today. I've hidden my identity, gathered strength in the shadows, and now the time has finally come to reap the reward. Master, I will not disappoint you. Now here's a gift from my master. Remember, failure will not be forgiven. Looks like I can't just gloss over this. No choice. Guess I'll have to go all in. On the other side, Elpem and Devo had already circled around to the goblin's lair. But as soon as Devo caught sight of the boss, his jaw dropped. What the hell are those? Is the boss hidden among all those monsters? Elpem explained, didn't I just say? The boss is right here among them. And forget about numbers. Each one of these goblins is built like a tank, tough even one-on-one. Plus, it looks like they've stolen a bunch of adventurers' gear. That just makes things worse. Some of them can actually use equipment to unleash skills. This is way out of our league. Maybe we should just regroup with Kiri and the others. But suddenly, Elpem had an idea. He tossed a rock into the goblin horde. Left with no choice, Devo hefted his battle axe and charged in. You did that on purpose, didn't you? I meant we should go back and team up with Kiri. Forget it, forget it. Looks like there's no other way, we'll just have to fight our way through. After a bitter struggle, Devo managed to wipe out all the goblins nearby. Elpem, meanwhile, had barely lifted a finger. Fuming, Devo shouted, I could have handled these guys myself. If they're all like this. But before he could finish, his eyes went wide. A pile of corpses lay before them. Boss, what happened here? Elpem replied, these are all Cygnus Knights. What could have done this? Fortunately, there was one survivor. Elpem pressed him, were you ambushed by goblins? Meanwhile, Avis seemed to have received new information as well. What did you say, deliberate provocation? Someone is exploiting the lack of oversight inside, specifically targeting other adventure teams. Once they escape, all evidence inside the gate disappears. There won't even be a crime scene left. The trial gate is already brutal enough. After burning through stamina, the survivors are forced to press on with even fewer people. Even if they manage to drag themselves out with special equipment, they'll be under suspicion the moment they return. Is this an attempt to eliminate the ace teams from rival guilds? But that motive alone didn't add up. Even if that was the goal, getting caught would mean all-out war between the guilds. That kind of high-stakes gamble doesn't sound like something a merchant guild would do. Was there a bigger hand behind all this? Elpem and the others got confirmation from the survivor. Kiri was nowhere to be found. I'm sorry. It was my negligence that let the enemy infiltrate. It's hard to believe. Why would a member of the Cygnus Knights deliberately provoke a fight? The survivor was still reeling. Thinking back, even the instructions at the entrance had seemed odd. In agony, the survivor said, Kiri told us herself. She's a follower of the Black Mage. The moment those words left his mouth, Devo was stunned. You said the Black Mage. 800 years ago, it was the Black Mage who led countless followers to threaten Maple World. To stop him, 6 heroes rose up. The Black Mage and the heroes were ultimately sealed away together, and what seemed like a hopeless situation was finally reversed. With their leader gone, the followers fell into chaos and were wiped out by the Allied forces. From then on, the Black Mage's followers vanished from Maple World. Everyone in Maple World knows that story. But it be the Black Mage's followers. Elpham could only say, now's not the time for grinding mobs. We have to find that woman. If you run into Kiri again, be prepared to fight her for real. Meanwhile, the scene cuts back to Kiri. On her way, she ran into the long-faced man, as well as the gray-haired one who had killed Crocus earlier. Kiri, you took care of the wild boar herd yourself, didn't you? This plan owes much to you. We're almost done here, you should have received the gifts we sent. Seeing them, Kiri drew her sword with a cold face and demanded, who exactly are you? The gray-haired one and his companion wasted no words, drawing short swords and charging straight at her, launching into a fierce, evenly matched battle. The long-faced man simply watched from the side, as expected of Cygnus's training leader. But how much longer can you hold out? Kiri ignored him, raising her hand to unleash her Wolf Fang Heavenly Strike skill. The gray-haired one gripped his sword with both hands and charged. Is this really the time for posing? But to his surprise, in just one exchange, Kiri's golden blade already sliced across his arm. Not giving him any chance to react, Kiri spun and delivered a sun slash, severing his hand at the wrist. If you want to live, you'd better confess your scheme. But the long-faced man showed only disdain. You people are so noisy, what's the point of all this? Before the words had even faded, the gray-haired one and the others attacked all at once. Even with Kiri's strength, she struggled to fend off the group assault. Just as things reached a critical moment, a shadow suddenly burst onto the scene. A closer look revealed it was Devo finally arriving. It turned out that as Devo was helping survivors along the way, one of them suddenly pulled out a poisoned dagger. It was obvious this guy was working with the long-faced mage. Fortunately, Elpham had anticipated this and instantly used a skill, not only knocking away the dagger but successfully subduing the traitor. That was how the truth of the incident came to light. But when it came to cowards like this, Elpham never left any alive. The long-faced man looked puzzled. So there's another uninvited guest. At this moment, the blonde reminded William, that guy is from the Gapper Merchant Guild. But William didn't care. Since you've all come, I have no choice but to send in my elites too. Kiri called out behind her, warning Devo to be careful, but Devo just smiled faintly. I know, they're nothing but a bunch of psychos. William waved his staff. Come on, let's finish this quickly. Devo said, just handle one of them, leave the rest to me. Without hesitation, he launched a brutal strike, taking out an enemy on the spot. The blonde gaped in shock. That's just insane. But unexpectedly, just as the fight reached its peak, a flaming arrow suddenly shot toward them. Luckily, Devo reacted fast and barely dodged it. Damn, they're playing dirty now. With that, he unleashed a charged uppercut, cleaving an enemy clean in two. But at the same time, a gash opened across his back. Immediately after, another enemy charged in, and in the blink of an eye was upon Devo, swinging a massive axe down at him. But Devo had already seen through his move, sidestepped, and slipped behind him, not even giving him a chance to react before sending him straight to the afterlife. Then a spear-wielding enemy rushed forward, stabbing fiercely at Devo without a word. Devo simply sidestepped, dodging easily. Taking advantage of the opening, he swung his axe in a backhanded strike, knocking the enemy several meters away before he could barely regain his footing. The opponent couldn't help but curse inwardly. This guy's strength is monstrous. But before he could finish, Kiri kicked his teammate straight into him, the two of them collapsing in a tangled heap. Kiri stood nearby, scoffing, with skills like this, you dare call yourselves elites. William could take no more, letting out a cold snort. You're all useless trash. With that, he drew his bow and fired an arrow in one smooth motion, saying coldly, your interference ends here. I've wasted enough time on you. Devo was stunned on the spot. It was a flaming arrow. Before the words had faded with a whoosh, the flaming arrow shot right at him, far faster than Elpham's. The next moment, a thunderous explosion rang out. William saw through Devo's thoughts. You thought seeing a similar spell would make you let your guard down. My flaming arrows aren't even in the same league as the others. Even if you know the mechanics, you can't dodge this. But the very next second, William's face twisted in shock. How could this be? No one has ever dodged my magic arrow. Who the hell are you? Elpham simply raised his index finger slowly, pointed to the reeds at the side, and said calmly, we could use some extra help now. Not giving William and his men a chance to react, a rampaging wild boar monster suddenly charged out. William shouted, this is bad, scatter. The group scrambled to dodge, and only after a hard fight did they finally manage to bring down the boar. Damn it, what a pain. They lured that thing here and ran off. Gerald, you guys should be about done right. In that case, let's play with them for a while. If they get out of the dungeon, that'll be a real problem. Soon, William found Elpham and the others' footprints, but he couldn't shake a feeling of unease. Even so, he remained confident. There's no one in this dungeon stronger than me. Elpham and his companions had already escaped deep into the jungle. At that moment, Devo asked with a smile, boss, why didn't you just kill them all back there? Elpem replied flatly, their attacks just now weren't enough to kill them anyway. Overall, they're stronger than us. That flaming arrow he cast. If I hadn't altered its trajectory with my own, Devo, you'd already be dead. Looks like his flaming arrow is actually stronger than mine. Now my energy is almost at its limit. Normally, the ring grows thicker and thicker. Even with the same spell, there's a clear difference in power and speed. By all rights, my flaming arrow should be superior. But his magic completely defies logic. If he's in a red dungeon, he's at least a second-rank adventurer. Maybe he's using some kind of enhancement skill. Only then did Devo realize, could he be the strongest adventurer in this dungeon? So what should we do now? We can't just keep running, and that's not really your style, boss. Hearing this, Elpem fell silent for a moment. That wild boar monster just now was different from the usual ones. Maybe they've already sensed our connection, or are even ready to use it against us. At that moment, Kiri suddenly spoke up. The most important thing now is that the Black Mage's followers are hiding inside the Cygnus Knights. This is crucial intelligence for Maple World's fate. They have to leave the dungeon immediately. That means giving up the raid and leaving at once. As soon as she finished, both Elpem and Devo looked reluctant. But Kiri went on coldly, I heard you were both born slaves. Do you really want the dungeon rewards that badly? Elpem replied indifferently, what does it matter if that information gets out? Do you think that'll wipe them out? You're still too naive. The followers have been hiding for centuries, their roots are deep. Once exposed, they just dig in deeper and become even harder to find. They'll keep corrupting Maple World from the shadows. No sooner had he finished than Kiri grabbed Elpem by the collar. You say this won't work, that won't work. If nothing works, then stop talking nonsense. We're still being hunted. Before we're caught, we need to get out fast. Hearing this, Elpem just smiled faintly. It's not like there aren't other ways. Let's show them who's really the prey. Just then, William's people tracked them down. Find them fast or we're all dead. But unexpectedly, Devo appeared behind the blonde. Before the blonde could react, Devo swung his axe at him. The blonde ducked in a panic. At that moment, the others spotted Devo. Idiot, you really walked into our trap. This time you're dead for sure. But in the next instant, with a loud crack, a huge tree trunk crashed down on one of the enemies. Kiri finally revealed herself. Devo couldn't help but lose his temper. Princess, can you hurry up? As Devo spoke, the blonde suddenly tried to stab him from behind with a dagger. Devo dodged to the side, then countered with a knee to the gut, sending him flying and followed up with a heavy punch to the blonde's face. A blonde woman nearby tried to sneak up on Devo, but Kiri suddenly appeared behind her and instantly knocked her to the ground. Little girl, better pay attention. But just then, William's cold voice sounded again. Everything happening here is pissing me off. Elpem walked out to face William head-on. Were you waiting for me? Neither hesitated, then let's begin. Before he finished speaking, Elpem fired a flaming arrow at William. But William just laughed hysterically. How interesting. With a thunderous explosion, the ground around William erupted. The smoke hadn't even cleared when a stone whirred toward Elpem. At some point, William had circled behind him. Is it really going to end this quickly? But he didn't know Elpem's flaming arrows could curve midair. Even so, it failed to do any real damage. Well, didn't expect you to be this strong. But I bet you can't block my flaming arrow, right? What trick did you use? You don't seem like the talkative type. No matter, there's no time for chit-chat in battle. Guess I'll find my own answers. As he spoke, he fired another flaming arrow. Elpem had no time to think. The two flaming arrows collided violently in midair. Only then did William realize Elpem's secret. You can actually use telekinesis to make my flaming arrow spin, drilling through and weakening my magic. This is the first time I've seen someone use telekinesis to boost a skill like that. Could you be that so-called magic prodigy? Too bad, I hate people like you the most. Now let's see what you're really made of. Faced with his attack, Elpem wasted no more words. He instantly activated a telekinetic defense, summoning a stone wall to block William's magic. Elpem seized the moment and sprinted in the opposite direction. Haha, what are you doing? Still want to play hide and seek with me? As he ran, Elpem used telekinesis to launch a new attack behind him. This time, William couldn't react in time. With a flick of Elpem's finger, the magic arrow whooshed out. But William was still fast enough to avoid injury. His patience seemed to have run out. Game over. With that, veins bulged on his arm. The next moment, another magic arrow flew at Elpem. Elpem used telekinesis once more to spin it, causing another violent explosion on the spot. But William had already slipped behind him. You fired twice, now it's my turn. He exhaled, and a cloud of poisonous vapor swept toward Elpem. William had absolute confidence in this skill. The truth was, though the poison breath was powerful, it left him wide open while casting. You only have telekinesis and fire attributes. If I catch you during your flaming arrow's cooldown, I can shut down your attacks. For the next 30 minutes you can't move. My flaming arrow has a cooldown too. So I'll just finish you off with my short sword. This was William's favorite moment. He couldn't wait to see what kind of desperate face this man would make. But before William could react, Elpem was already right in front of him, above his head. William's eyes widened, and all he could do was watch as Elpem's fist came crashing down. The reason Elpem could detoxify so easily was because he had a special ability to absorb and seal airborne toxins with his mind. So William's poison breath was completely useless against him. At that moment, Elpem knocked out William's front teeth with a punch. Then came an uppercut, smashing William's face beyond recognition. Yet the guy was still tough as nails. So Elpem grabbed his staff without hesitation and fired an arrow straight at him. No matter how fast he was, he couldn't dodge in time. Elpem shot his arm clean off. Now William lay sprawled on the ground. But suddenly the ring on his index finger flared green, and a cloud of green poison mist surged toward Elpem. Elpem waved his hand instantly, absorbing all the poison mist in a flash. This is just a smokescreen, looks like he's got something else planned. If poison breath doesn't work, his target must be the staff. If that's the case, bring it on, and I'll take this chance to end it. Once and for all. Suddenly, William went berserk. You little bastard, I'll rip off your limbs and burn them. He still had one last trick up his sleeve, and Elpem got caught off guard, coughing up black blood from the attack. It was Elpem's own carelessness. He hadn't anticipated William's use of a powerful spell like Scorching Orb. Such a fatal mistake was something the old Elpem would never have made. Have I really gotten dumber? Devo, still fighting, also noticed the commotion over there. Kiri quickly warned them, hurry, Elpem can't handle that mage alone. Just then, with a sudden thwack, an arrow struck the enemy right in front of Devo. A massive beast's paw followed right after. Damn it, a pack of green hoblin have arrived. I was wondering why they hadn't shown up until now. Looks like we'll have to team up to deal with them first, and there are a few unsettling ones mixed in too. As the smoke from the explosion slowly cleared, William thought to himself, damn bastard, is he finally dead? William coughed up a mouthful of black blood. Never thought he'd be this strong to push me this far. Should have asked his name before killing him. Just then a voice sounded through the firelight, Elpem. Hearing the name, William was instantly shocked. Elpem replied coolly, remember, that's the last name you'll ever hear. William, however, was full of disdain. What a joke of a cockroach, you sure know how to brag. But to his surprise, Elpem suddenly pulled out a massive magic stone. A magic stone, is that your trump card? Planning to absorb the stone, level up, and then kill me. Didn't expect you to be that dumb. Leveling up isn't about absorbing magic stones. You need to gain experience and insight. Elpem admitted he was right. It was all about insight and real combat experience. But don't worry, I've got plenty of magic stones on hand. William sneered, you think cheap tricks like that can scare me? No sooner had he finished than he fired 2 arrows at Elpem without hesitation. Elpem's gaze sharpened and he shot back a flaming arrow in return. As the flaming arrow whistled through the air, William finished charging his scorching orb. Time to die, kid. Elpem immediately activated his telekinetic skill. The flaming arrow veered off course under his control. The strike came so fast, William had no time to react, and at such close range there was no way to dodge. All he could do was stare wide-eyed, helpless. A thunderous explosion followed, and the battlefield was instantly engulfed in flames. William was burned to a crisp on the spot. Meanwhile, Kiri's situation was tense as well. A horde of hoblin were searching for their location, making things even trickier. Still, Devo kept cutting down monsters with all his might. He'd already brought down his 17th. Kiri was stunned, unable to comprehend how this guy could defeat these monsters so easily. The truth was, Devo was so strong, because he had completely mastered the hoblin's attack patterns, making the fight much easier for him. Just then, a huge explosion erupted on the field. Kiri widened her eyes at the sight before her. That's a ring of flame skill. Wait, can these monsters use magic too? This is an unexpected problem. Things just got a lot more complicated. All Kiri could do was keep hiding, waiting to regroup with Elpem. She just hoped he was still alive. But the hoblin pursuit didn't let up. Kiri and Devo had no choice but to keep moving, catching their breath whenever they could before fighting again. But this kind of war of attrition clearly couldn't last. As Kiri was racking her brains for a solution, a giant flaming arrow suddenly came whistling toward them. With a hoblin leader present, the pressure on Kiri and Devo soared. At this critical moment, Devo stepped forward. Kiri urgently demanded to know what he was doing, but Devo said nothing, rushing straight at the hoblin leader. The leader pointed with his left hand, and the hoblin behind him swarmed forward. But right now, Devo was like a war god, cutting down hoblin after hoblin, then leaping straight for the leader's head. Kiri was astonished. Is this guy really just a first-tier adventurer? Just as his blade was about to hit, the hoblin leader swept his right hand, sending Devo flying, his great axe knocked loose, but Kiri managed to catch it in time. Though he only left a small wound on the leader, it was enough to utterly enrage it. The leader let out a furious roar, raising its staff overhead. A searing fireball formed instantly. Kiri quickly stepped in front of Devo. Step back, I'll handle this one. But to everyone's shock, the skill the hoblin leader threw only made it halfway when it suddenly changed direction. Even the leader itself was caught off guard. The fireball veered off course, smashing into the little hoblin nearby. It was then that Kiri realized in shock. So that guy really isn't dead, Elpem is back. Elpem replied calmly, good, I made it in time. Meanwhile, outside the instance, Longko was growing impatient. 3 days have passed and still no word. Earning money is tougher than I thought. This kind of job just isn't for me. I'm never taking another base guarding gig again. Just then, a group of figures burst out of the dungeon. There was a crunch, the door shattered like glass. A one-eyed brute shouted, "Boss, we've got survivors here." Elpem opened his eyes again, finding himself in a strange infirmary. "You'd better answer my questions honestly. This time, the elite dungeon raid team formed by your brother's merchant group. Why are there only 3 of you Gapper Guild people left? Tell me what really happened in there." Hearing this, Elpem was stunned. Only us left. Before he could say more, he broke into a coughing fit. "I can't believe everyone else died. There was a terrifying demon inside the dungeon." As he spoke, Elpem picked up a pen and started sketching on paper. But no one believed Elpem at all. 100 elite fighters, the dungeon was at most red-level difficulty, but all killed by monsters. How do you expect us to buy that? In a place like that, you should have been invincible. At that moment, Toriel, the representative from Sky Merchant Guild, shouted, "My uncle is still in there." But the next second, Longko produced a sketch. "I don't think they're lying if it's really this thing. Turns out it's a green hoblin. Some of these monsters can use equipment and they're extremely smart. Fighting a green hoblin tribe is like fighting a human army. It's no surprise so many people died." But Franco, the Natasha Guild's rep, still wasn't convinced. "I don't care about the others, but my Natasha squad wouldn't lose to them." Longko replied coolly, "What are you trying to say?" Franco spat out 2 cold words, "Monster pull." Who really knows what happened in there? I think someone had bad intentions, whether on impulse or by design, and the only 3 survivors all belonged to the same guild. Ivis at the side finally couldn't hold back. "So you're calling us Gapper traitors? The report says it clearly. We only survived because we reached tier 3 by the skin of our teeth." Franco just stroked his thick beard unhurried. "So you're saying your guild is just better than ours, Gapper?" Hearing that, Ivis's gaze went ice cold in an instant. "You want proof, huh? Fine, let me spell it out. They didn't bring back any gear from the dungeon. In other words, there was no motive for a crime, get it?" After that, Elpem and his 2 companions were released. Longko's men asked, "We're just letting them go." Longko simply said, "The conclusion is obvious, isn't it?" The truth was, all the dungeon equipment was carried out by Elpem and his team. But that was all thanks to their pet snail. It not only helped them wipe out the Black Mage's followers, it also helped kill the Green Hoblin. The feather dropped by the Hoblin, as long as it's worn, it can increase the destructive power of fire magic by 30%. Moreover, the effect of this equipment can be stacked with other equipment and won't conflict. But this snail is different from normal snail monsters. It's non-aggressive but can sniff out gear and loves collecting equipment. The more equipment it swallows, the bigger it gets. In his previous life, this snail was only discovered after the dungeon opened. A special creature. Though Kiri had her doubts, she didn't want to dig any deeper right now. "So what now?" Elpem said flatly, "If they can even infiltrate the Cygnus Knights, you need to treat this intel with utmost caution. They might be hiding even deeper. But for now, they should be arriving soon. Let's wait and see." Soon, word reached the hands of the mysterious figure. This time, the entire raid team was wiped out by the boss. Only 3 Gapper Guild adventurers survived. In the meeting room, some suspect internal sabotage, but not us. It's pointed at Gapper Guild. Since there's no solid evidence, the final verdict is no suspicion. Though the mission failed, at least our identities weren't exposed. I'll start planning the next operation. The mysterious figure was puzzled. No one noticed anything. The woman nodded. "That's right, our original plan was to wait until the other teams died, then kill the boss. In the end, only those 3 and William clashed, but Elpem's report didn't mention any of it. And they have no reason to hide anything. We planted people in every guild, so it's impossible they'd target just ours." At this, the mysterious figure finally spoke. "But what if he suspects this isn't a guild matter, but rather the work of that one's followers? This is his signal to the Black Mage's followers." The woman's face changed instantly. "If that's the case, it's far too dangerous. We'd better eliminate our people embedded in the guilds before we get discovered." "Haha, so this is my invitation. Interesting, I accept, but let's change the stage. I'll make them guest number 101. As for how Devo became Aaron's student, it was simply because his sister had black blood disease and he was powerless to save her. She suffered day in and day out, and even when his only family died, he couldn't be there to say goodbye. That was when Aaron appeared. "You look like you're in pain, do you want my help?" That was Devo and Aaron's first meeting. Under Aaron's patient guidance, in just 1 month, Devo became a powerful awakened. His worldview changed as well. He liked to charge ahead and protect everyone, calm and warm. A hero to his team, he gave those around him a glimpse of a new world. Later, during the raid on the Trial Cave dungeon, Shannon wanted to join Aaron in searching for her brother, but Aaron refused her outright. "I don't take private commissions like that. Your conditions are unreasonable. You're just tier 3. You'll only hold us back, I've made myself clear. And I can't guarantee your brother's still alive. You'd better find another adventurer." Just then Devo stepped forward. "Sorry to interrupt, I think we're her last hope. After the final day, no adventurers will enter the Trial Cave again. I want to help her. Let me take responsibility for Shannon's safety. Please reconsider." So Shannon joined Aaron's party. But during the trial cave raid, Shannon accidentally entered a mysterious tunnel, leaving only her hair clipped behind. Did she go in alone? Why act on her own? Aaron quickly sensed something dangerous inside the cave. I don't know what's in there, but we have to check it out. At that moment, Devo volunteered. I'll go find Shannon, you all wait here. But Aaron said, I'm coming with you. Whatever's inside, if it threatens Maple World, it's my job to stop it. The master and disciple entered the cave together. Crossing a sea of molten lava, they finally found Shannon and a cold corpse beside her. Her brother. Shannon, don't move, I'll save you. But Shannon only gave him a strange smile. Devo, I knew you'd come. You're such a gentle person, but I'm sorry. I can't go back. Do you know what Zachem is? Lots of people call the moving statues Zachem, but those are just containers. This giant tree is the real Zachem. You could call it the demon tree. You've never fought the real Zachem, have you? Aaron spoke up. Thanks for telling us, Shannon. Don't worry, I'll cut down the demon tree and save you. With that, she charged in without hesitation, signaling Devo to retreat. But soon, Aaron realized. Shannon had used her brother as a sacrifice. Shannon replied coolly, don't you get it? The moment you came in, everything was already set in motion. Anything possessed by Zachem can be controlled. With that, Miria stabbed Devo in the stomach. Aaron froze in shock at the sight. Devo quickly demanded, Miria, what are you doing? Shannon just sneered, it's pointless. To them, you're just targets for revenge. Come, it's time for your final performance. Give it your all. Only then did Devo realize, damn, Shannon's possessed by Zachem. Aaron shouted anxiously from the side. Do it. Kill her. She's not Miria anymore. With that, Aaron charged in, instantly entering battle mode. Devo snapped out of it and drove his spear through Miria's belly. I'm sorry, Miria. Then, without hesitation, he cleaved Miria in two. In her final moments, Miria gently stroked Devo's face. Thank you, Devo. Please take care of Aaron for me. Meanwhile, Aaron was locked in fierce combat with Zachem's true form. So this is your real body. Nothing special. She swung her axe, splitting the trunk with several deep cracks. Next was the statue itself. But suddenly, Devo clutched his head and screamed in agony. Aaron, I can't hold on. Kill me before I do something unforgivable. Please. Aaron had no choice but to make the hard call. She gripped her axe tightly. I'm sorry, Devo. To her surprise, Devo burst out laughing, but the next moment regained his senses. Aaron, kill me now. Then he saw his dead sister. Why is my sister here? Who killed her? Was it you? Did you kill my sister? In that instant, Devo saw Aaron as an enemy. Aaron understood this was no time for hesitation. Devo, don't worry, I'll end this soon. But Devo was completely out of control. You did that to my sister. I'll never forgive you. With that, he launched a frenzied attack on Aaron. But now Devo was just a puppet, no real threat to Aaron. After a fierce struggle, Devo soon found himself losing ground. Aaron seized the chance to cut off the statue's arm, charging up for a finishing blow to destroy it completely. Let this all end here. As the Zachem statue was about to be destroyed, Devo attacked again. Damn it, Devo, you idiot, there's only one chance. Don't hesitate. Sorry, Devo. With that, she brought her axe down without mercy, shattering the Zachem statue to pieces. Devo immediately came to his senses. Seeing this, Aaron breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness you're finally awake. I thought I'd never get to say goodbye. At that moment, Devo's eyes went wide. He finally saw the deep black wound on Aaron's abdomen. No, Aaron, don't. Didn't I ask you to kill me? Why did you do this? He dropped to his knees before her. Only then did Aaron speak. Devo, this isn't your fault. In fact, we failed once already 800 years ago. I wasn't the one who stopped the Black Mage. Devo, your talent far surpasses mine. When I was your age, I was nowhere near as strong as you are now. Maple World is yours from now on. You'll do better than I ever could. Because you're my only disciple in this life, I'm a little tired. I'm going to rest for a while. With that, Aaron passed away. Devo made up his mind to tell all of this to his hero friends. Then he set out on a new journey. After Aaron left, there seemed to be no place in the world for him anymore. He couldn't protect his new purpose in life, nor make up for past mistakes, couldn't even fulfill the wishes of someone important to him. For him, this was hell. Then Devo woke up from the nightmare. The scenes in the dream were both strange and vivid, but once awake, he couldn't remember them at all. At that moment, his sister smiled and reminded him, Brother, you're finally awake. You were talking in your sleep just now. Oh, and someone is looking for you outside. Devo got up and opened the door, only to find Elpem already waiting outside. Next, Elpem and Devo headed to Avis's office together. This time, only 3 of you made it back out of 100. Something's definitely not right. Don't tell me you don't know anything. I told you before I'd only pay you once I got real intel. Elpem didn't say much, just fished around in his pocket and laid a stack of misos on the table. I'll pay off my debt first. Avis looked on in confusion. Where did this guy suddenly get so many misos? Does he have some income source we don't know about? Still, he forced a smile and offered his congratulations. Congrats, you're finally a free adventurer. In that case, we can sign a new contract. Name your price and I'll do my best to meet it. Elpem just replied coldly, 50 million. The moment he finished, Avis shot to his feet. Are you crazy? 50 million? No one pays a C-rank adventurer that much. Elpem stood up as well. In that case, we have nothing more to talk about. Actually, all of this was exactly as Elpem had expected. Devo whispered to Elpem, "Boss, how much did you just ask for?" Elpem answered calmly, 50 million. "Boss, are you nuts? 50 million? By the way, why did you bring me to this slum anyway? This used to be the most prosperous area in Lith, but now it's a hotbed of crime. In the most chaotic part of Victoria, fighting is just daily life. And the person I'm looking for is that guy getting beaten up on the ground right now." Elpem even helped him pay off 3 million misos in high-interest debt. But to his surprise, the guy turned on them right away. "It's not like I asked you to pay that 3 million. Want me on your team? Then pay up first. If you could find me, you must know what I can do. No proper payment, no deal. Since you saved me today, I'll give you a discount. Pay me 3 million misos and I'm in." Just then, a cold voice cut in. "Hello, I'm Beiju from the Carnia Guild. May I ask which one of you is Mr. Elpem?" Elpem smiled in response, "That's me." Beiju went on to explain, "We failed this 100-man instance, but you made it out alive and even reached Tier 3, which shows real potential. So we'd like to officially invite you to join our team. Of course, you'll need to pass a nominal instance test. Here's 3 million misos as an advance. There will be a 50 million deposit if you pass." Elpem agreed without hesitation, setting the meeting for 3 days later. But Elpem just tossed the advance to Ralph. "Here's your deposit, 1-year contract. Finish the run and you'll get another 7 million misos." Devo was dumbstruck. "Boss, I didn't even get to touch the 3 million. The 4 stood up, ready to continue the raid. 5 teams, 50 people. That should be enough for this instance." Ralph grumbled, "You just grab a bunch of randoms for the run, and I end up with less of the cut." Beiju reminded everyone this instance is orange level. You all should be able to handle it. Actually, Elpem knew Carnia Guild would come for him. He just hadn't expected to be brought here so directly. Though the timing was different from his past life, he'd already cleared this instance before. This time, nothing would go wrong. Instances are color-coded, made up of multiple sections, and even have nesting instances inside. Orange is a double-layer structure, so you have to clear 2 rounds. Kiri reminded everyone, the terrain and monsters in the second layer are totally different from the first, so be careful. Ralph spoke up, "Elpem, just to be clear, even though you recruited me, that doesn't mean you get to boss us around. I can still compete for team leader based on merit, right?" Elpem just smiled. "Didn't know you were so greedy. Fine, let's have the team leader decided by contribution this run." Ralph's eyes narrowed and he secretly gloated, "Heh, the kid took the bait. Once I'm team leader, things get interesting." The team quickly entered the instance in order. No sooner had they stepped inside than a mob of evil eyes rushed the group, instantly wiping out a few slow adventurers. Devo was pounced on by a Cyclops as well. Luckily, Ralph kicked in just in time to save Devo and warned everyone to stay sharp. Kiri wondered aloud, what's going on? Is the dimensional entrance right in the middle of the evil eye swarm? A teammate said he'd run this instance before and never seen evil eye's mob adventurers like this. And their attacks were completely unpredictable. This can't go on. Kiri let her guard down for a moment and got slashed by an evil eye's claw, dropping right at the monster's feet. At the brink of death, Devo held back the evil eye's fangs with all his might, and Ralph followed up with a heavy punch, smashing an evil eye to pulp. "You runt, see what I can do, let's keep this up." Even Kiri was shocked. So this is a man's strength. She might grumble, but she had to admit, Tier 3 really was something else. But just as she praised Ralph, he got tail-whipped to the ground by an evil eye. Still, evil eyes were no match for Ralph. He soon noticed Elpem firing telekinetic flaming arrows. No wonder Carnia's after him. Who knows about the boss fight, but just from his hunting speed, he's faster than me. A 5 million advance isn't something just anyone gets, and the guild's attitude means they'll probably raise the price later. Ralph could already picture himself leading the team, counting misos on a mountain of cash. Just then, Elpem suddenly kicked Ralph flying. Ralph yelled, "You bastard," looking for a fight. But the next second, he realized he was already surrounded by evil eyes. Suddenly, several energy arrows flew in from nowhere, clearing out the evil eye mob in an instant. Ralph asked, puzzled, who those guys were, and Elpem immediately noticed the glow behind him, rushing toward the evil eye mob without hesitation, with blue energy arrows hot on his heels. It was clear that guy was after Elpem, but the evil eyes helped block the arrows for him. Elpem locked onto his location right away, firing off a flaming arrow that reached the enemy in a flash. A thunderous explosion followed, shaking the field. Ralph was stunned. He not only blocked the evil eye attacks but fought back. This guy's guts and execution are off the charts. Just then Devo yelled, "Boss, look out." Elpem glanced back and saw the energy arrows coming with no time to dodge. A huge blast erupted the next second, and Kiri could only watch helplessly. But when the smoke cleared, Elpem had only a scratch on his arm. Elpem was puzzled. He'd clearly hit the target, yet the enemy had instantly circled behind him. To guard against attacks from the shadows, Kiri signaled everyone to find cover. But no sooner had she spoken than more energy arrows rained down. Everyone scattered in panic. Anyone too slow was riddled with arrows, dying on the spot. Seeing the crisis, Kiri didn't hesitate, blocking the arrows with a sun slash. "Don't just stand there. If you want to live, get into the forest." But no one dared move. Evil Eyes had already cut off their escape. Elpem fired off a magic arrow, wiping out the Evil Eye mob in an instant. Ralph dashed for the forest at once, followed by the others. But after just a few steps, more energy arrows rained down. Devo cursed, "Damn it, we'll all die at this rate." Without thinking, Elpem fired a flaming arrow, using the explosion as cover for the retreat. As he ran, he whispered to Devo, "Do what I say when the time comes." But before the smoke cleared, the enemy had already locked onto Elpem again. Looks like Lord Ebok's concerns were justified. "Sorry, Mr. Elpem." Then the enemy's energy arrows came flying at Elpem. But he suddenly noticed this mage was incredibly fast, and someone seemed to be missing. By the time they realized, it was too late. Elpem's flaming arrows struck the target from behind. An explosion rocked the field. "Sorry, but I didn't miss this time." At that moment, Devo pulled off his disguise. "Boss, the plan worked. Thanks to me holding them off." But before he could finish, an energy arrow pierced his abdomen, dropping Devo to the ground. Elpem's heart skipped a beat, but another energy arrow came flying at him. Everyone was too stunned to move. Kiri hurried to help Devo escape, but was shot through the knee by an arrow. Both of them collapsed to the ground. As their lives hung by a thread, Ralph suddenly rushed in, dragging both of them. "Just what I needed, another job playing dad, what a pain." But the energy arrows kept chasing, nearly hitting them in the rear. They finally managed to get deep into the forest. But as soon as they entered, the three were dumbfounded. "Why is there another door? Did Elpem know about this all along?" Ralph waved off their concerns. "Doesn't matter, we're alive, aren't we?" Ignoring their protests, he dragged them toward the door. This must be Elpem's plan. But what puzzled Ralph was how the energy arrows could shoot at them from the front. As he wondered, a few energy arrows struck him in the gut. Then a great axe suddenly flew in, precisely blocking the energy arrows. Devo instantly realized Elpem had saved them. But there was no time to talk. They all rushed through the door. The scene cuts back to Elpem facing off with the enemy. "Is stalling with Evil Eyes all you can do? You think cheap tricks will help you find me? Fine, let's play, struggle all you want, Elpem. Did you know in my 13th year under Lord Ebok, 300 assassins fought to the death with only 5 left at the end? Then another 7 days of killing, and even then no one could find me until all were dead. Lord Ebok even gave me the nickname Ghost. You think you can find me, please?" Elpem shot another arrow, and Ghost immediately locked onto his location. Without a word, he countered with several energy arrows in a row. But he hadn't expected this attack to expose his own position. Luckily, Ghost reacted fast, dodging Elpem's strike in time. Only then did he realize Elpem could use telekinesis. Still, Ghost was incredibly fast, but Elpem's flaming arrows kept chasing him relentlessly. Out of options, he had to fire back with his bow. The next moment, the field was rocked by explosions. But that also cost him his line of sight. Elpem's real killing move was always hidden behind the scenes. Now Ghost was starting to lose his composure, looking battered and desperate. "Elpem, look what you've done. Still, I have to admit, this is pretty entertaining." Elpem noticed. The forest had suddenly gone quiet. If he hides, things get tricky. I can't sense his presence at all. There was no such expert in the dungeon last life. He must be an assassin sent by Carnia. Has my presence changed the future of this instance? Just then, Ghost's voice suddenly sounded from behind. "Elpem, get out here. Stop hiding like a coward and wasting time. Aren't you supposed to be fearless? Why are you hiding now?" Elpem quickly realized something was off. He's so close, but there's not a sound. Could he teleport? Is he using a speed technique? Suddenly, Ghost's eyes sharpened. "Found you." Before the words were out, several energy arrows shot at Elpem's back. Meanwhile, the scene cuts to Devo, Ralph, and the others. No sooner had they entered than they saw the ground littered with skulls. Judging by the bodies, even 100 people wouldn't be enough, let alone 3 teams. Kiri suddenly realized, damn it, Carnia set us up from the start. Making us join the guild was all part of their plan. He must be a follower of black magic. They lured all the troublesome adventurers here, and with that assassin, it looks like Elpem was right about them taking the bait. Ralph suddenly broke into laughter, interrupting everyone. "Sorry to butt in, but the landlord here doesn't seem too happy to see us. Looks like there's no dodging this rent." He casually tore off the necklace from his chest. That necklace wasn't something he showed just anyone. To the monkey-faced adventurers, Ralph was a total jerk. For the right price, he'd do any dirty job. He was the very definition of scum. But in terms of skill, he was the strongest bishop healer among all tier 3s. Devo and Kiri were both stunned by the sight. Their wounds healed in an instant. Was Ralph actually not a fighter but a bishop healer? Ralph reminded them, "Now that you're all patched up, don't just take the boss's money for nothing. Besides, that thing looks eager to start." As he finished speaking, the giant ape lunged at them. Ralph didn't even try to fight. He just turned and ran, leaving Kiri and Devo totally bewildered. Damn it, that crazy Ralph. As the ape opened its jaws to swallow them, Devo thought fast and grabbed the ape's huge tooth, slashing at its eye with his sword. Kiri didn't hesitate, following up with a slash, making the ape howl in pain. That bought them a brief respite, but it also enraged the ape, which swung a fist straight at Devo. Just then, Ralph doubled back, landing a punch on the ape, while casting a healing spell on both of them. Only then did Devo realize he'd misjudged Ralph. This guy could not only heal from the backline but also tank damage at the front. And his timing was perfect. He only healed at the critical moment. Ralph finally got serious. All the healing so far was free, but now I'm charging 100 misos per heal. With the three working together, the giant ape was finally felled. Ralph grinned, time to settle up. But the next second, the downed ape let out a furious roar. Devo pinched his nose and complained, "Damn, it reeks." But before he could finish, blue crystals started growing out of the ape's wound. With a loud crack, the wound rapidly healed. Devo's expression turned grave. Could it be? On the other side, Elpem wasn't having an easy time either, searching for Ghost while desperately dodging attacks. Strangely, he couldn't discern the attack pattern at all. Though a Tier 3 archer could use the Quick Flow movement skill, Quick Flow only lets you return to a marked point, and you can only have one mark at a time. There's no way to attack like this. Seeing this, Ghost taunted Elpem, "With that speed, you think you can get away?" Hearing the voice, Elpem instantly gathered a fireball with telekinesis and hurled it in Ghost's direction. Ghost kept mocking him, "How can you even aim? Go ahead, keep wasting your skills." At this point, Elpem's situation was getting more and more dangerous. Ghost darted back and forth through the woods, ready to kill Elpem at any moment. Elpem could only keep tossing fireballs into the forest, while looking for a chance to dash to the door. "I can't keep dragging this out. If there's another mana surge, it's all over." But before Elpem could react, Ghost's energy arrow blast knocked him to the ground. "No choice, I'll have to use an energy potion to get through this. There's no time for hesitation now. If that's how it is, I'll just have to go all in." Elpem immediately summoned a sacred flame shield, deflecting all of Ghost's energy arrows. But at this speed, there was no way he could catch up to Ghost. The guy was so fast he was leaving afterimages. Just then, Ghost's pupils suddenly dilated. "This guy's insane, he just fired 6 flaming arrows in one go. With mana surging, he's using the maximum number of a Tier 3 skill. Does he have a death wish?" But Elpem had already pretty much figured out his trump card. "If I'm right, I'll drag you out by force." Ghost just sneered, weaving away as he laughed. "Shooting blindly without knowing my position, you're nuts." Elpem kept raining fireballs down, while Ghost used the terrain to dodge nimbly. Elpem cursed in frustration, "Damn it. It's always just barely out of reach." But with the mana surge, Elpem's body was nearing its limit. By contrast, Ghost still looked relaxed and casual. "You think this kind of attack will hit me? Your fate was sealed long ago, just die in agony from the mana surge." But there was no way Elpem would give up. An even fiercer wave of fire energy burst forth. Elpem gathered all his strength and flung another fireball. His gaze went razor-sharp, and a flaming disc appeared out of thin air. In the blink of an eye, flames engulfed the entire area. Only now did Ghost realize what was happening. "Oh no, what's Elpem doing? There's fire everywhere." So that was his plan all along. "If I don't get out now, I'll be burnt to ash." Luckily, there was a clearing not far ahead. Ghost hurried toward it. But the next second, something fell off. No way would things go this smoothly for him. But the inferno was closing in from behind. Just then, another voice called out, "No, come back, there's a trap ahead." But Ghost realized too late. Elpem charged up and smashed him with a punch. But Ghost reacted instantly, firing an arrow at Elpem as he rolled away, then darted off in the other direction. In truth, Elpem had been lying in wait all along. "Let's take out one of you first." But there was no way Ghost would be caught so easily. He braced himself on his bow, sidestepped Elpem's attack, trapped Elpem's weapon, and counterattacked. Elpem understood. There was no time left to stall. He had to finish this fast. Elpem swung his weapon, smashing it into the bow, and flung Ghost away in the process. To save his own skin, Ghost even dropped his weapon. Elpem seized the moment, striking while his foe was weak. But right then, his opponent jumped in. The newcomer fired several arrows in quick succession, blocking Elpem's attack, and shouted for Ghost to get up. He's out of magic now. With that, he drew his bow, ready to finish Elpem off. But he didn't notice Elpem's telekinetically controlled dagger sneaking up from behind. Fortunately, he noticed just in time, barely dodging a lethal blow. Settling this with low mana telekinesis. Nice idea, but this is as far as you go. He charged at Elpem, blade in hand. Elpem quickly raised his sword to block, attacking him with telekinesis at the same time. But the foe took advantage of Elpem's split focus, drawing his bow for a one-shot kill. But he underestimated Elpem's telekinesis. A barrage of stones crashed down, knocking him to the ground. Ghost watched in disbelief. A mage this strong at close quarters. But in that moment of distraction, Elpem kicked him square in the stomach. Elpem gave him no chance to recover, driving his dagger straight at him. Ghost was agile, dodging constantly, but couldn't spare a thought to help his teammate. Just as Elpem was about to finish off the teammate, a cold arrow shot through Elpem's arm. The teammate took advantage of Elpem's injury, kicking him away and praising Ghost. "Brother, you really are the best." He snatched up the fallen dagger and swung it at Elpem without hesitation. "Now you're down to one hand, what can you do?" But he still underestimated Elpem. While he was distracted talking, Elpem gritted his teeth, grabbed his arm, and twisted it hard. The man screamed in pain. "You idiot, stop, you want me to put a hole in you." Elpem didn't care, flipping him over and pinning him to the ground. Off in the distance, Ghost was sweating bullets. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the battlefield and Ghost shouted from afar, "Ner." The shockwave sent Ner flying and he coughed violently on the ground. "Damn you, Elpem, I can't breathe. If this keeps up, I'll die here." Ghost rushed to help, but was shocked to see a green circular shield appear ahead. Ner cried out, "Brother, where are you?" At the sound, Ghost raced toward Ner with Elpem charging in as well. As Elpem arrived, Ner yelled furiously, "You're dead meat." But Elpem ignored the pain. His only thought was, "I have to kill this guy." Then Ghost noticed the green shield above was gone. But he quickly realized what was up. Ner was already sprawled on the ground, barely breathing. Ghost hurried to lift him. "Ner, hang in there." But Ner signaled this wasn't the time for that. "We've stalled too long. We need to get the phoenix feather off him first." But Ghost had miscalculated. The person next to him wasn't Ner at all. It was Elpem disguised as Ner. A sword hummed through the air. "Finally, it's over. Archers are such a pain." With that, his strength gave out and he collapsed. Meanwhile, the scene cuts to Devo's side. Because the giant ape could keep regenerating and its hide was thick and tough, their attacks barely made a dent. The three were getting beaten badly. Luckily, the ape was slow, and with Ralph's healing spells, the trio hadn't been seriously hurt yet. But this stalemate couldn't last. They needed a way to finish off the ape. Then Devo suddenly realized the ape's weak spot might be its back. Ralph didn't hesitate, charging in. "I'll distract it." He plunged his greatsword into the ape's wound. Devo shouted, "Now do it." The two of them circled around to the ape's back. But the ape spun suddenly, flinging Devo and Kiri aside. Devo cursed, "Damn, this guy's no fool." The giant ape pounded Devo into the ground, then swatted at him again. Kiri cried out, "Ralph, heal him quick." But she saw Ralph was in bad shape himself, and could only watch as the ape's heavy fist came down. The ape then glared viciously at Ralph and Kiri. Ralph had only enough mana for 4 more heals. He told Kiri to dodge as much as possible, draw the ape away, then save Devo. But the ape attacked too fast. Kiri was sent flying before she could react. Ralph cursed inwardly, "Damn, I warned you to be careful." And that blow actually knocked Kiri out cold. The ape now set its sights on Ralph. Devo was already a mess, but in his stupor, he seemed to hear Elpem's voice again. "Devo, you should level up to tier 2 now." Devo was confused. Leveling up wasn't something you could just do at will. Elpem replied calmly, "That depends on your own insight. All I can share is my experience. My own breakthroughs might come from understanding magic, or from the pursuit of knowledge, or even from memories I just can't forget." At that, Devo's eyes snapped open. Unforgettable memories. He charged the ape with his great axe, smashing the regeneration crystal to bits. Ralph couldn't help but gasp, "Impossible." He split the regeneration crystal in one blow. Then he realized Devo had reached tier 2. Devo was a different person now, beating the ape so badly it couldn't fight back. Blue blood spurted from the ape's head. Devo locked onto the greatsword in the ape's body and smashed down with all his strength, driving the blade straight into the ape's core. The ape howled in agony, and its regeneration crystals began to fall off. But Devo's stamina was nearly spent. Then Ralph burst to the ape's back. "Nice one, kid." He drove his sword into the ape, while casting a healing spell on Devo. Devo swung his great axe in a frenzy. Then with another burst, he charged to the ape's back and slammed down hard on the sword hilt, shattering the ape's core in a single blow. Finally, the giant ape was dead for good. After a long time, Kiri finally woke from her coma. Ralph, draped in giant ape hide, had fallen into a deep sleep as well, and he still wasn't in great shape. Outside, the blizzard continued to rage. So Devo stayed alert the whole time. "Now I can go scout the area." A whole day has passed and there's still no word from the boss. This made Devo start to worry. Just then, a shadow suddenly appeared behind Devo, but fortunately it was only some low-level monsters. For tier 2 Devo, they were nothing at all. After finishing his scouting, Devo returned to the cave, sporting a few more wounds. Kiri suggested they act together next time. "It's too dangerous for you to go alone." But Ralph was too weak and needed someone to look after him. Also, Kiri didn't know the route Devo took to scout. In the end, Devo decided to go alone again. At that moment, Kiri felt a kind of indescribable respect rising in her heart. If anyone could be called a real man, it had to be someone like Devo. After a short rest, Devo set out for another scouting trip and ran into a different group of monsters. After a fierce battle, Devo managed to defeat all the enemies without incident. Then, unexpectedly, he spotted what seemed to be a human figure up ahead. Getting closer, he saw it was a corpse. The dead man held a yellow letter in his hand. "I pass this letter to you, stranger. Though it can't really make up for anything, I want to give you my gloves. If you're a warrior, the warrior mastery skill on these gloves might help." We fell into Carnia's trap, and all my companions were killed by snow monsters. But we were lucky. We finally found the exit. But bad luck, this seems to be a special instance. You have to beat the boss to activate the exit. I drew a map of the exit on the back of this letter. I hope whoever finds this is strong enough. Please help me deliver this letter to them. After giving the adventurer a proper burial, Devo and the others finally opened the exit. He supported the injured Ralph as they slowly made their way out. But as soon as they stepped outside, they were confronted by several masked strangers. Looks like that ghost really got taken out. Only then did Devo realize what was happening. Are these more from Carnia? This time things really don't look good. The leader of the masked men struck first, saying coldly, "Don't worry, it'll be over soon." No sooner had he spoken than his men were engaged in a chaotic melee with Devo's group. In the confusion, the masked leader threw 3 knives, all of them striking Kiri in the arm, making her cry out in pain. Things were looking dire for Devo's side as well. Just as they were at the brink of death, a sudden buzzing sound filled the air, and a red flaming arrow shrieked through the wind, piercing an enemy straight through. Then a second arrow, then a third, followed in quick succession. In the blink of an eye, Elpem had taken out several of Carnia's men. This might not be the right time to say this, but I think I'm right. Devo, did you miss me? Devo managed a weak grin. Maybe you're right. Meanwhile, Ebok's side was also seeing new developments. A new powerhouse has appeared, and we still don't know who's backing him. Looks like things are about to get messy. Just then an aide rushed in. "Lord Ebok, Elpem has returned. What should we do about his request?" Ebok was startled at first, then replied coldly, "Kill him." The aide tried to argue, but Ebok answered coolly, "I don't have time to deal with the media right now. This has gone beyond what I expected. Do you really think he's acting alone? Just make up some excuse." Right then, Elpem had already returned to Devo's sister's house. Ralph eyed the food on the table, complaining it was too bland and tasteless. Devo snapped at him, "If you can eat, eat. If not, go hungry. If I had anywhere else to go, I wouldn't have brought you guys to my place." Kiri reminded them, "Carnia's probably heard by now. Hiding at your sister's is safest for the moment. Even if we go somewhere else, they'll find us soon anyway." At that moment, Elpem walked in from the doorway. Ralph saw Elpem and immediately wanted to settle accounts. "We're even on the captain's thing. So when are you paying me the 700,000 bonus?" Before Ralph could finish, Devo snapped, "Don't you care about your life? You're still thinking of going to Carnia for money now. Besides, you didn't beat that guy alone. While I was out risking my neck looking for the exit, you were sleeping the whole time." Kiri cut in, "Would you two stop arguing?" She went on, "I heard Elpem took out those twin assassins. So what now? Carnia will come after us soon and not just us." Before she finished, there was a frantic knock at the door. It turned out to be Avis. "Tell the brother inside to hurry up." Apparently, he was here to clean up Elpem's mess. In fact, before entering the instance, Elpem and Avis had already made a deal. He hadn't expected Elpem to approach Carnia Guild on his own. With things going this way, he was worried for his own neck. Elpem understood the stakes perfectly, so that night he went to Avis directly. Elpem got straight to the point. "They said if I passed the test, I'd get 50 million misos. After the instance ends, all that's left is to sign the contract." No sooner had he finished than Avis snapped, "Did you just come here to show off?" Elpem replied coldly, "If you have nothing to say, I'll go." Avis was silent for a moment, then reached into his coat. "Fine, I give up. Here's 60 million misos. If it's all right, just sign." Elpem smiled in satisfaction and signed his name without hesitation. Then he got right to the point. The monster pull was Carnia's doing, and the test instance was their trap too. At least 100 people died, and they even sent assassins. Avis was stunned, so Carnia did all this to destroy the evidence. The thought made Avis burst out laughing. "Heh, Carnia, you're finished this time. Is this info enough? All I've got is my testimony. All they have to do is deny everything." Avis snorted, "Of course they'll deny it, but we can push public opinion. 100-man instance fails, all the guilds will want answers. If Carnia gets buried by public outrage, we'll have our chance. Not only can we knock Carnia out of second place, we might even erase them from Maple World entirely. Tell us everything you know, and keep quiet about the monster pull for now. Wait for the news to break for the biggest impact." Elpem answered flatly, "The Black Mage's followers have already started moving." With Avis and Rakan behind him, Elpem had no hesitation about going with Avis to Carnia Guild. Beiju, seeing Avis, asked suspiciously, "Why are you here?" Avis said he was there to apologize. "There was a misunderstanding with Elpem before. He's young and acted rashly, so he joined you guys. Actually, Elpem is Gapper's official partner. Don't make it sound like we poached him from you." Beiju, always unflappable, didn't bat an eye. "In that case, we don't need the deposit." Avis smiled back, "Of course. This made me realize the importance of talent, so we want to give the best treatment to someone like him. To keep them safe on the road, I've also brought several of our guild's best bodyguards. Of course, and that includes protecting everyone in Elpem's team. During the last instance, their performance stood out. So if anyone tries to mess with their team, they'll have to answer to our guild." Devo was stunned to hear this. 60 million misos, seriously. Kiri was shocked at the figure too, and they even gave us bodyguards. Why would Gapper do that? Ralph gave Elpem a big thumbs up. "Elpem, you're amazing, your business sense is top-notch. And I can say for sure, there's no bishop like me in all of Lithport. Maybe all of Maple World. Not only can I heal, I can deal damage too. I'm a real all-rounder. And you, kid. I thought you were out cold, but you managed to level up by yourself. That's not something you can explain with normal leveling." Hearing this, Kiri seemed to remember something. "Oh right, Devo, back when you were fighting the Hoblin, you were unconscious but still fighting. What was that about?" But Devo couldn't remember anything. He only recalled a dream where a woman kept appearing and they fought side by side. He felt close to her, but for some reason when he woke up he couldn't remember her face. He just remembered she used a great axe. That made Elpem freeze. A woman in your dreams with a great axe. In his past life, Devo and Aaron were a famous duo. If the woman in his dream was really Aaron, that meant Devo had used some of his past life's power while unconscious. What does this mean? Did my rebirth change the past? Maybe even twist some things. This is unbelievable. Suddenly Ralph cut in. And you, Elpem. Your leveling speed is terrifying. You're young, but you have this uncanny maturity and insight. No wonder Gapper won't let you go. They're encouraging you instead. And as for healing the lady here, what should I say about you? You were Cygnus's former training captain, solid fundamentals, good judgment. But nothing that really stands out. Gapper isn't stupid. We were bait, they paid us so we'd walk right into Carnia's trap and help find the trackers. Not just anybody could do that. But me, I'll do anything for money. Just don't ask me to split my cut with dead weight. If you could get back into Cygnus, I'd be grateful. Kiri, for her part, had her own reasons and had to put up with her teammates' jibes. I thought you died in the 100-man instance. Are you back to see your master? I heard you joined an adventurer team. You're an interesting one. Maybe this is what you're really capable of. Leaving the Knights is actually the best way to honor your master. In fact, Kiri left the Knights and joined the adventurers to complete a secret mission from her master. Just report in once a week on Wednesdays. And Kiri, don't forget you're always my disciple. And always a Cygnus Knight. Kiri could only explain helplessly, I know it doesn't look great, but the followers have infiltrated the Knights. Until I have real proof, I can't go back to my master. I don't need money, just time. I'll handle the power problem myself. Elpem just smiled at that while Ralph burst out laughing. You really have no sense of people, do you? Haven't you noticed you're actually a burden here? Elpem lost his temper. With her personality, she'd just be running around chasing followers. That would only make things worse for us. And as for your strength, Ralph, you're a bit too confident. Actually, I'm not the only one disappointed in the team's strength. I sent you to the second layer because I thought you could clear it easily. But if Devo hadn't helped, you probably would have all wiped. It was just a giant ape. I've soloed one before. All three stared at him in disbelief. No way, you can't be serious. Elpem just smiled. Of course it's true. Just in my previous life. Originally, I was supposed to take care of the ape myself, but the Carnia assassin was tougher than I thought. I had to change plans on the spot. With your current strength, you're not even a threat in their eyes. That stung Ralph. Come on, you were just a slave not long ago. Elpem just gave him a cold look. If you don't believe me, want to test it out. Seeing Elpem's look, Ralph backed down immediately. Forget it, not worth it, so are you dumping me now? Elpem smiled coolly. It's simple. Just get stronger than you are now. The instance resets in a month. Let me train you properly. Word soon reached Ebok's side. Things are getting more complicated. How much does Gapper know? The talks fell through. Was it all just an act? An aide said there was no word from their spies. Probably only a few high-level members know the truth. Ebok fell silent. If it's just Gapper, that's not a problem. Once the day comes, taking care of them will be nothing. Our real enemy is the entire Maple World Alliance. It was the same 800 years ago, led by Empress Cygnus, the Knights, the Resistance, the Adventurer Alliance. Even Nova and other groups. All united. After the 6 heroes and that man were sealed together, only those people could ever threaten us. If this were just a guild squabble, I could handle it easily, even without support from above. But that kid thinks he can oppose us just because Gapper is backing him. Go gather every bit of intel on Gapper you can. Elpem, I hope you won't turn out to be a coward when the time comes. Meanwhile, Elpem had already started putting the 3 through special training. Damn, what kind of monster is he? He's clearly a mage, but his close combat skills are insane. Elpem simply walked over slowly. Come on, you two, attack together, hurry up. As long as either of you can touch me, today's training is considered a pass. As for Devo, Elpem just had him sit and meditate. Damn it, you two are so noisy, I can't concentrate at all. I'd rather get some exercise too. Why am I the only one made to sit here? Elpem replied coolly, you could try bringing out that mysterious power you used while unconscious. Honestly, I'm not sure if it'll work. But if it does, it'll be interesting. Soon night began to fall. Ralph finally paid the price for his recklessness. Is this training? Looks more like getting beat up to me. Elpem said, I was just casually playing with you. Devo couldn't stop laughing. Haha, Ralph, you were really something today. So tough it's almost inhuman. Just then, Devo said he needed to talk to Elpem and took out the letter he'd found in the instance. Thanks to this, I made it out alive. That person helped me, and I think I should deliver the letter, but there's no address and I have no idea where to send it. But as soon as Elpem saw the ring on the letter, he thought of someone. I think I know who it's meant for. If there's nothing else, get some rest. Oh, and Devo, you'll be joining training starting tomorrow. After that, Elpem left alone, heading to a mysterious room. Someone inside asked who Elpem was. Elpem showed the letter, saying he was basically making a delivery. Turns out the instance destruction case had never been solved. Some secret organization had destroyed instance entrances, with the major guilds searching everywhere, but the culprit was never caught. It was supposed to have nothing to do with Elpam, but oddly enough, the destroyed instance reappeared. Once word got out, no instance was ever sabotaged again. Elpam only found out the truth later. The culprit was actually the secret group known as the Cross Hunters. After discovering the instance was a trap set by followers, they chose to destroy it. And no one ever died because of it. But this time was completely different from his previous life, which was why Elpam had come here. A Cross Hunter spoke up first. You have 5 seconds to give me a reason. I found something you lost, but it seems you're not planning to thank me. 4 seconds. You all look lost, so I'm here to point you in the right direction. If you keep wasting time elsewhere, it's a problem for me too. 3 seconds left. For certain reasons I can't tell you everything, but if you kill me, 2 seconds. Beneath Edelstein City Hall, your leader's location will be exposed. As soon as he finished, the woman in charge finally stepped forward. Who are you really? Elpam called her by name, Starling, long time no see. In his past life, she'd been one of Elpam's most trusted companions. After the Cross Hunters were wiped out, Starling joined the resistance and fought countless times at Elpam's side. Until that day. Elpam, you go ahead, I'll catch up. Those were her last words before her death. Maybe he wanted to repay that debt from his previous life, so this time Elpam was straightforward. Tell the Kerning City branch to retreat. Their location has already been found by the followers. Oh, and this, I picked it up recently. Carnia has an interesting guy working for them. Starling's face went cold at that. What do you mean? If you're provoking me, you'll regret it. Elpam just said, just take a look first. Soon, Starling was shocked to see. The arm had the follower's tattoo. Her subordinates recognized it instantly too. That's right, it's the follower's mark. Followers carve a unique tattoo somewhere on their body and hide it with magic. Without injecting mana, it's invisible. Not many people know who the followers are. Tell me what you want, don't say it's just a good deed. Elpam replied calmly, information. Maybe Starling and the others are still unsure, but they'll understand in time. And I've unexpectedly gotten a new lead. I didn't expect Carnia to be watching that side already. Maybe the changes in the future have altered their plans. If I ignore Starling, who knows what will happen? Elpam made up his mind. The next target was the Nautilus. Before setting off, Elpam went to see Avis. Avis had already gathered all the intel on Carnia's instances. It's been a month. You should act soon. Seeing Elpam unmoved, Avis grew annoyed. Don't tell me you're scared. Elpam just answered simply, relax, I've already decided. Hawkeye's grave. That left Avis speechless. Do you know what kind of place that is? The Nautilus's captain, Chiron, commands countless pirates. Her top disciple, Lee, also called Hawkeye. Hawkeye's grave is the instance where she died, now her tomb. You're heading into a forbidden zone, with a 9,990,000 misos bounty. Countless adventurers have fallen there, it's said to be impossible to clear. Carnia would go there too. Where did you get this info? Just then, Rakan suddenly walked in. I heard something interesting. Word is you're raiding another instance, so I brought you a gift. When he took out the gift, Avis was stunned. This is from Gapper just for you, 2 phoenix feathers. I have high hopes for you. So this time you have to get a good result. With these 2, you now have 4 phoenix feathers. Never thought you'd get this lucky. Another person was joining them. Devo was surprised to see it was Monkey Face. He'd brought a whole set of new clothes, and everyone looked much sharper after changing. These outfits are all made from giant ape leather. Oh, Elpam, what about this one? Elpam said that one was set aside just for you. Monkey Face froze, you're kidding, right? Actually, the rules for entering the Nautilus were simple. Whoever tore off a wanted poster first got priority to enter the instance, but you had to enter the instance that matched the poster you tore. There were only 2 rules. Like every team, you couldn't tear off a poster someone else had already picked. It was understood. Menor had never managed to get into the Nautilus, no matter how many times she tried. Even being Lei's real sister didn't help. You dare talk back now, are you defying my orders? Hearing that, Menor started to shake. If you won't let me go, how am I supposed to avenge Lei? You know how hard I've worked. But even so, she was still rejected by the boss. So when she learned Elpam's team had torn off a wanted poster, she exploded with rage on the spot. Who do you think you are, tearing off the wanted poster? That's mine. Elpam just looked indifferent. If you really wanted it, you should have torn it off yourself. Menor was unconvinced. It's pointless anyway, you only know the surface. You don't get how this works. Nautilus wanted posters are for pirates. If you're not a pirate, you can't enter the instance. No one outside the crew can get into a Nautilus instance. Hearing this, Devo almost spat out his food. Haha, I see now, boss. Miss, looks like you'll be disappointed this time. Let me introduce us properly. We're the Iburu pirates, and don't be so quick to argue. The one behind me, you must have heard of him. That's Iburu himself, captain of the Iburu pirates. The fact we can board the Nautilus says it all. Just then someone cut in, that's a stretch. I'm talking about the rest, not the pirates. As soon as he showed up, Menor got excited. You're finally here, Murat. Murat said the rules are Chiron's, she makes the call. Are there only 5 of you? Elpam introduced himself, I'm Elpam. Once they heard his name, everyone started murmuring. Why does that sound so familiar? If I'm not mistaken, he's the survivor of the Red 100-man instance. I heard almost all the adventurers died in there. Looks like none of these people are ordinary. But in the end, they're just a bunch of useless runaways. Did you know Menor just finished a 200-man instance? She's way stronger than you. Murat interrupted, let's all take a step back. Since you've already claimed the poster, you get priority. But could you give us the other 69 spots? Devo immediately said, not a chance. But Elpem agreed right away. Each slot would be 100,000 misos and he'd only sell 10. Murat and Menor discussed, should we really buy? They'll probably wipe and we can just go in after. But if by chance they all make it out, we'll get nothing. Murat asked, did Chiron approve this? Menor said, if so, we can't wait. Let's act first and ask forgiveness later. This door is mine, I'm not giving it up. On the other hand, Ralph questioned Elpem's decision. With so many empty spots, why only sell 10? That's just losing 5.9 million misos. But Kiri figured it out quickly. If we sold all the spots, their numbers would be 14 times ours. Don't forget the followers either. Of course, only Elpem knew the real reason. The followers' target this time was to assassinate Chiron's second disciple, Menor. If Chiron lost Menor after Hawkeye, she'd be devastated and quit the front lines, retreating from the world. The followers could then destroy the Nautilus from within. The original Nautilus incident wasn't supposed to happen for another 2 years, but now things had changed. According to the Cross Hunters, Carnia had already shifted their resources to the Nautilus, meaning the plan was ahead of schedule. To protect Menor, they had to keep the numbers down and avoid past mistakes. Mana use also had to be tightly controlled. Night soon fell. Suddenly Chiron and Murat showed up. Chiron asked seriously, I need to confirm something with you, please don't lie. Elpem, are you a black mage follower? Elpem looked shocked. How does Chiron know about the followers? Has the future changed from the start? When Elpem didn't answer, Murat's face darkened. Elpem, you hesitated. Does that mean you really are? But Elpem cut him off. I'm not a follower, I just didn't expect to hear that from you, so I got flustered. But Chiron still demanded proof. Elpem could only say helplessly, I have no way to prove I'm not, but you know in your heart I'm not. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come to me. You know who the followers are and you know my relationship to them. Otherwise, you'd have shot me already. Finally, Chiron spoke the truth. That's right, the followers are from Carnia. You're their enemy, but that doesn't make us allies. For now, we're just temporary partners. Miss Chiron, what do you want me to do? Chiron sighed, saying the situation was dire. I know the real mastermind behind Hawkeye Lee's death was the Black Mage's followers. They're hiding inside the Nautilus. Besides me and Murat, I trust no one. Elpem was startled. Things were moving even faster than he'd imagined, far beyond his expectations. Chiron also knew that the followers' current target should be Menor. With Lee gone, she'd become the idol of the ship. If the core of their pirate crew, Menor, died, the Nautilus would fall into chaos. Even if Chiron stepped in, it couldn't be quelled. So the deal this time was, in the Hawkeye instance, Elpem had to protect Menor. As payment, he could choose equipment from the Nautilus's vault. After that, everyone entered the Hawkeye instance as agreed. This time, the mood was completely different. Chilling and grim. Suddenly, a scrawny monster appeared. Devo immediately burst out laughing. This little guy actually looks pretty cute. But the next second, Devo's eyes went wide, because on the little monster's head was a giant many times its size. Sorry, little one, turns out you brought your mom. No sooner had he spoken than everyone opened fire. But the barrage of gunfire attracted all the monsters nearby, and the team had to adjust their positions. At that moment, Menor stepped forward and said, leave these monsters to me. But the monsters just kept coming. As Devo desperately tried to get away, Ralph strode into the monster horde and said, you guys go ahead. I've got something to do. Only then did Devo recall what Elpem had said earlier. You're all fighting too chaotically, every man for himself. It's way too inefficient. As a team, you need to fight together. From here on out, you're a family. Specifically, Devo, you need to charge into the monster horde and disrupt their line of sight. You don't need to kill in one hit. Just injure the monsters if you can. The core of the squad is to keep advancing. No matter what happens behind you, don't look back, because Ralph will be there to protect you from the rear. Ralph, you're the team's shield. Stop playing selfishly like before. From now on, your job is to guard Devo and make sure he's always safe. Next, Kiri, you're the most important. The wounds you inflict are hard to heal. For monsters with only half a life left, you need to finish them with a single blow. During this past month of training, you've made the fastest progress of the three. After some real combat, the three realized just how smoothly they could kill monsters together. If that's the case, let's take out the rest of the big ones too. Meanwhile, outside the instance, Cadril, what's going on? Everyone we agreed on is already inside. Move aside, this is urgent. I need to report to Menor at once. Inside the instance, Menor was chatting happily with Ralph. Just then, a pirate shouted from afar, Menor, look at the size of this magic stone. On the market, it's worth at least. Before she could finish, Elpem pierced her abdomen with a single blow. Menor stared in disbelief, while Elpem kept unleashing telekinetic magic. The others quickly dodged Elpem's magic arrow attacks. Menor fired at Elpem without hesitation, but Elpem had already snuck behind her. At that moment, Menor spotted Elpem, her face instantly darkening. Elpem, you bastard. You'd better have an explanation for this. Elpem immediately activated a sweep skill, signaling to Menor and the crowd not to move. It'll be over soon. But everyone seemed to have forgotten Monkey Face off to the side. If that's the case, why'd you even bring me in here? If it weren't for the ant tunnel, I'd already be dead. But I can't hide forever. If everyone else runs, it's all over. Damn it, I'm a tier 2 adventurer. I'm not dying in a place like this. He reached the door to the second instance, hesitating whether to wait or go in. Just then, Elpem's pet snail appeared, and before Monkey Face could react, the snail kicked him straight into the instance. Meanwhile, Menor aimed her gun at Elpem. Can't you hear me asking for an explanation? Before she could finish, there was a sudden explosion. It was Cadril and his men bursting in. Elpem immediately used his burst skill to escape to a distance. Cadril ordered his men to give chase, saying, Elpem pulled this in the 100-man instance too. Chiron recognized him, so she sent me to rescue you. But they underestimated Elpem, who took out 3 of them with a single skill. What are you all doing? Elpem's just one man. Elpem used an explosion to block their path and kept fighting them in a running battle. At that moment, Menor suddenly fired at Elpem, but he dodged just in time. Damn you, Elpem. I'll never forgive you. While fleeing, Elpem suddenly spotted the instance door Monkey Face had just entered. Cadril signaled for everyone to duck, planning to throw explosives. A red light flashed in Elpem's eyes, and his telekinesis ring activated instantly. Not only did he easily section off the battlefield, the explosives went off on Menor's side instead, sealing the entrance. For the moment, no one could touch Elpem. As the smoke cleared, Elpem's staff appeared right in front of Menor. Menor hurriedly pointed her gun at him. What exactly are you trying to do? What's with all these tricks? If you've got a plot, spit it out. Elpem just replied calmly. Are you ready to face the consequences? At that moment, Geo questioned Cadril. What did you just do? Now Menor's stuck on the other side. The next second, with a huge bang, a flaming arrow shot out. Then a gun-wielding hand appeared, not giving Cadril any time to react. A few bullets riddled him on the spot. Cadril couldn't believe his eyes. Menor, why would you do this? Geo stared in shock at Menor. What are you doing? But Menor just gathered everyone together and calmly said, Geo, take everyone and get clear. Remember, this is Chiron's order. With that, the pendant on her chest, symbolizing Chiron, lit up. Meanwhile, on Monkey Face's side, hey little guy, why'd you bring me in here? Waiting for someone else. Second instance is a cave too. Are the others here as well? Looking closely, he thought he saw someone moving up ahead. He hurried toward the figure. Hey, I got separated. If you can, let's act together. But the pet snail tripped Monkey Face again, and the distant figure came closer. He got up and saw it wasn't an ally at all, but a scrawny monster. And behind it were even bigger, more disgusting monsters. Back to Elpem and Menor, the reason she fired at Cadril was that Elpem had produced Chiron's pendant. Chiron would never hand over her token lightly, meaning she'd known everything, and this was to protect Menor. At that moment, Menor seemed to understand. So the people you killed earlier. Elpem nodded, that's right, but Menor was still puzzled. How did Elpem identify the followers? It was thanks to an item Starling had given him. X-ray glasses that could read magical flows. They could identify Black Mage followers but consumed a huge amount of mana. Since Chorus died, no one had been able to use them. Only those with the right affinity could activate them. No one knew how Elpem could use them, but for now their goals were aligned. Besides, Elpem's mana was nearly gone. If he couldn't use the glasses, he'd die anyway. So Starling chose to wait and see what Elpem could uncover. Except for those 3, the rest are all followers. Menor don't believe him. He has no proof. Elpem activated the X-ray glasses again. In his previous life, tracking followers was a nightmare. You had to infuse mana to see their tattoos, and each tattoo was in a different spot. Impossible to see with the naked eye. But every follower had a mark somewhere. He grabbed Cadril by the head. Everyone looked closely. What's that red tattoo on his forehead? Geo looked stunned. It's really the Black Mage's mark. With their cover blown, the followers raised their guns. Damn you, Elpem, everyone. Open fire, kill them all. Geo dodged at once, then fought back. But Menor's face was cold, and she gunned down the followers without hesitation. Elpem quickly warned, tracking them down burned up too much of my mana. This isn't good for us. He glanced at the second instance nearby. Let's go in there and hide for now. But Menor couldn't tolerate betrayal. Shut up, I'll kill these traitors myself. Just then, someone suddenly rushed out. If you don't want to get dragged in, clear out now. It's hunting time. Only then did Menor realize. She had fallen under the enemy's illusion. A thick gray fog surrounded her. She couldn't see a thing. The man cackled wildly, not bad Menor, but your luck only lasts once. You'd better get ready to die now. I'll send you to meet Hawkeye next. He pulled the trigger, say hello for me. At the last possible second, Elpem tackled Menor to the ground. The man yelled in disbelief. You shouldn't be able to see anything either. He hadn't expected Elpem to be wearing mana glasses. Without hesitation, he fired again at Elpem and Menor. Elpem instantly used his telekinesis, blocking all the bullets with stone slabs, then unleashed a flaming arrow, instantly killing several enemies. One enemy raised a heavy weapon. Try my Gatling gun, but he knew too little about Elpem. The next second, the flaming arrow bounced right back at him. Elpem seized the chance, chopping off his arm with one stroke, then smashed the skull that was casting the illusion. At that moment, Menor snapped out of the illusion. But the followers had no fear of death. They shouted all for the Black Mage, then detonated the bombs on their bodies without hesitation. Menor was blown clear away. Elpem quickly summoned a giant boulder, escaping from the blast just in time. But Elpem's mana was nearly gone. We have to get into the second instance fast. But the enemies came after them again and pulled Menor down from the boulder as well. Even though Elpem reacted quickly, he couldn't save her in time, and could only watch as Menor was swallowed by the explosion. Luckily, she wasn't fatally wounded. Damn, they made it into the second instance. No matter, the instance will respawn nearby. Our real target isn't Elpem but Menor, everyone. Kill that woman. But Menor wasn't about to give in. She opened fire at them all. But the followers had no fear. One of them punched Menor and sent her flying. But Menor was quick to react, using a burst of speed to circle behind the man and fired several rounds into the back of his head. But the man twisted aside and dodged the bullets. Seeing this, Menor locked his head between her legs, twisted hard, blocking the other's bullets and drawing her pistol to finish him off. She swept a cold glance over her former crew. Now all followers. No time left, come at me all at once. Meanwhile, Devo and the others reached the door. Why are there so many instance entrances? Are these all doors to the second instance? Ralph spoke up. I heard some special instances connect to other areas in the second layer. Once someone goes in, the door closes. You have to use another, and you'll get teleported somewhere unknown inside. We have no choice but to try. Luckily, the three could pass through together. Elpem must have come through another door. We need to find him fast. Look, what's that ahead? Looks like it's coming right at us. Monkeyface saw them as his saviors. You're finally here to rescue me. Devo yelled, don't bring the monsters over here. But the moment Elpem entered the instance, he was stunned. All the monsters in front of him were dressed in pirate clothes. Were these all once human? These monsters were truly strange. Even headshots didn't stop them, and their bullets were almost gone. Elpem had never seen anything like it. These monsters have no core. Are they zombie human corpses? No vital spot, nothing kills them. This is nothing like my last life. He thought of the mana threads linking them but couldn't see where they ended. There had to be a secret behind that wall. Just then, Elpem suddenly saw Devo. Did everyone enter the second instance? But at that moment, Elpem's mana ran dry, his head throbbing so badly he couldn't use any skills. Seeing this, Geo rushed over. Elpem, what's wrong? Wake up. Suddenly, a red flash blasted a monster away. Looking closely, it was Menor. Still alive. Geo shouted in excitement, Menor, you're alive. Menor fired off a few more shots. Everyone was unharmed. Before anyone could relax, she went all out. If you don't want to die, get out of the way. A flash of gold burst up front. With a thunderous boom, the monsters were blasted to pieces. Before the smoke cleared, more monsters crawled in. Geo said, we're almost out of bullets. What do we do? Menor just smiled. We can still use our last mana attack. Elpem quickly told her to wait. I need that skill. Since Elpem and Devo's group were only 3 kilometers apart, there was no time to waste. Elpem asked Menor for 3 more minutes, and he'd finish the instance. Meanwhile, Devo's group kept clearing monsters. What the hell is going on? These monsters keep moving even after we chop off their heads. There's no way to finish them off. Ralph said to save the chatter. Better to kill a few more while you can. Monkeyface fired a single shot, and the whole instance started shaking violently. Devo was dumbfounded at the sight. Do you realize what you've awakened? But Monkeyface just grinned, didn't I do great? Meanwhile, Elpem was leveling up under cover of Menor and Geo's fire, his heart pounding hard enough to burst. He didn't want to push himself this hard, but there was no other way. Leveling up was dangerous, especially unprepared. That left only one option. In my previous life, I ran into something like this. Monsters kept getting stronger, my mana weaker, my attack power dropping. By level 6, I hit my limit and had to try something new. For me, it's a gamble. I'd only ever used magic stones during level up. Since they're crystallized monster life, maybe absorbing them would turn into mana. In theory, it should replenish mana. Now Elpem's mana was nearly out of control, so he pushed the magic stone to his heart through his blood. If my body can take it, I might have a chance. While Menor was still fighting monsters, Elpem's voice suddenly sounded behind her. Thanks for your hard work, Menor. He finished by blasting a monster behind her with an arrow, then swept his hand wide. Menor, get ready to use the skill from before. Seeing Elpem's state, Menor was stunned. What happened to you? Meanwhile, Kiri's side was in dire straits. Monkeyface had accidentally drawn out a giant monster. And it wasn't just any monster, but a zombie clown mushroom. That made things even harder for the trio. Their movement slowed. At this rate, they'd be wiped out. Devo raised his axe and charged in. Leave this to me. Get out of here. If I fail, come back and bury me. But after just one exchange, Devo was coughing up blood from the zombie mushroom's blow. Then its 40-meter tongue lashed out again. Luckily, Kiri rushed up to block the hit for him, but took a serious wound to her abdomen. Meanwhile, Elpim and Menor were at the crucial stage of their skill combo. Elpim focused on sustaining the skill, while Menor locked onto the target. Their goal: break through the stone wall ahead. And they only had one shot. Gio and the others were almost out of bullets. If that's the case, let's start now. Elpim infused Menor with telekinesis, and Menor took careful aim at the wall. The next second, she shouted, "Full power blast." A giant bullet shot out like a missile, blasting a huge hole in the stone wall in an instant. Elpim increased his telekinetic output. The giant bullet began to spin violently, but it still wasn't enough. "Menor, we need even more force." "Hold on. Don't let up." Elpim boosted the bullet with a flaming arrow, and finally the projectile gained enough power, drilling hard into the wall. Gio's bullets were gone now, and the monsters rushed them. Gio told everyone to scatter. Just then, Elpim finally bored right through the stone wall. The monsters, cut off from their controller, moved like puppets. The source of all those magical threads was the necromancer commanding the undead monsters. So their real target was the controller. Just as Elpim had predicted, the moment he smashed the controller with a punch, all the monsters froze in place. Then with a squelch, they all exploded into pieces. Devo was left in shock. Monkeyface shouted with glee, "We made it out alive." Elpim just smiled coolly. Instance finally cleared.